been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Monday Nights. And Monday nights would never be the same without a little bit of the fans forum. And we are back on NUFC Matters to give you just that. Before I get into our normal talk, just want to say massive happy birthday to Big Dan Burn, Newcastle United's own, celebrating his birthday today. So I just saw it on the way home from work, popped up on my phone. So I thought, you know what, let's let the Matters crew know that it's his birthday today, and let's all wish him a big happy birthday, Newcastle's own. Maybe not the most joyous of weekends this weekend after Newcastle United's performance. As you will already know, Newcastle United went to the Etihad and unfortunately succumbed to Man United. No chance, we'd definitely beat them. Manchester City's supreme quality, and we lost 5-0. And I'm sure we've already got a few in the chat ready awaiting to discuss this, but I'm sure we've all got different opinions on the performance yesterday. But first and foremost, Chris, not had a chance to properly speak to you about the game yesterday. What were your thoughts just in general about that defeat at the Etihad?
Do you know what, Pete? Like I felt a bit despondent after it, and I had a lot of Liverpool fans saying to me, "Oh, thanks very much for that. You really helped us out there." I think they were all secretly hoping that we might be able to get something from City. But again, on reflection, I think when you look at it, Man City are such a good side. Like that was clear for everyone to see at the weekend, and also I think we were coming up against a wounded animal in the sense that Man City have only got the Premier League to play for now. So the fact that Real Madrid had knocked them out, I don't think that helped us whatsoever. But the golfing class was just something else. Like I know there was a few disappointing performances out there, and I'm sure we're going to talk about them in more detail on this show. But in many ways, and I know Stu Penman put out a fantastic tweet about it, and he absolutely echoes what I was feeling myself. And I said this a while ago on Loaded, about how maybe we don't want to finish too high, because there could be a danger that the owners may think, oh, do you know what? Maybe they don't need that much money spending on them. This squad might be all right. So in many ways, as much as I didn't want to get, us to get absolutely bent over and have our bums smacked, similarly, it will have highlighted to not just Eddie Howe, but also to the owners that this squad just is not good enough. If we want to be competing at the top end of the table, we need to be better. There's a lot of players out there on Sunday who have overstayed their welcome at the club, and I do look forward to the summer where we bring in this fresh blood. There was even players on the pitch even players who were on the bench and didn't even make it on the pitch, where you're looking at them on our bench and you're thinking, really? Like, is this really what we're reduced to? We saw the substitutions that Man City made, and I know it's difficult looking at Man City because they are one of the few elite clubs in world football, and their squad is something else. They probably, if you do a comparison on their squad and Liverpool's, they probably well excel Liverpool's squad, and Liverpool have got a fantastic squad. So they're probably, in terms of depth and quality, they're probably one of the best squads in the world. But it did hurt. I'm not going to lie, it hurt when the goals just kept going in one after the other. I must say though, I thought City were absolutely outstanding. I didn't expect anything other than a performance like that. But I think it was just the lack of mettle that we showed, which really hurt. And like I say, I think it puts a number of squad places up for question. And I found it interesting, Pete, I don't know whether it was today or yesterday, when Eddie Howe talked about making difficult decisions, and there's players within his squad that he's very, very fond of and that he rates, in terms of their work ethic and what how they are as a professional, but that simply will have to be moved on in the summer. And I think that just the performance yesterday really demonstrates that.
I have to agree. You made a number of good points there. Look, I talked a little bit about it on the Loaded Reaction, but I've had an opportunity to watch the game back a little bit more, and I can't help but be disappointed regarding the scoreline. I think, a lot of those goals were avoidable. A lot of those goals were our mistakes, and that's the hard thing about it. When you're working hard and you succumb to quality football, and some of it was quality football, but when you succumb to outstanding football, you kind of just hold your hands up. But some of them, when you're giving them goals, it just makes it worse. The last two goals, the Dubravka mistake, and it was a mistake. He didn't intentionally mean to do it, but you're gifting them 3 goals there. You cannot gift arguably the best team in the world 3 goals. You just can't do it. You're going to get punished on the back of that. I admired the bravery of Eddie Howe. And there's a number of people that have been talking about it today, funnily enough, about how we set up with a back 5 ultimately against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and it almost got us a point. We set up in a way which we were kind of a little bit more difficult to play against, a little bit more robust, a little bit more deeper in our defensive unit, and it worked, almost worked. And it was kind of like, well, why didn't we do the same again? But ultimately, I could see the bravery in Eddie Howe's decision to go with a back 4, to go with an attacking lineup, to go with a team that pressed high and wanted to try and cause them problems, because ultimately that's how Eddie Howe wants us to play. Ultimately, we're better players going forward, but that's how he wants us to go to Man City in the future, in Liverpool and Old Trafford and Stamford Bridge and the Emirates. And he wants us to go there and play that way and be able to beat teams that way. And that's what he prides himself on. And I admire the bravery in that. But I don't blame Eddie Howe for that defeat. Individual players have let him down. And it's the point that you made. And I think it's a really good point, that players yesterday were in the shop window. Various players. Mm-hmm. And I'll name a few. Martin Dubravka was one. Jamal Lascelles was another. Emil Kraft. Sean Longstaff. This might surprise some people. Joelinton. All in the shop window still, because for me, I look at those players and I think to myself, if we're going to be a team that's pushing for European football, are they players that you're going to be able to guarantee, to bank on, to trust in games moving forward? And you would probably argue for all the players bar one, you could argue no. You couldn't bank on them. And maybe a few people would say Joelinton, yes, you could bank on, he's had a good season. But it's just half a season. And players play well for half a season all the time. And then you don't see the back of it. I'm going to put something out there to you and to everyone else in the chat, and for those that are in the green room right now. I don't think Joelinton's played well for 3 or 4 games, in my opinion.
I don't think he has. I don't think he has.
Well, and that worries me. Is it a purple patch, or is it a new Joelinton that we're seeing, that we're going to see this fantastic performances all the time, and he's just had a little dip? I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know whether people in the chat have got the answers to that. I don't know whether the guys that are going to come on in a second have got the answers to that. I don't know if you've got the answers to that, Chris. But I haven't seen enough recently of Joelinton. He's played fantastically well. Probably will get player of the season. And you know what? Deservedly so, for his run. And he's had a number of games recently where he's not played well. Okay, scored a couple of goals at Norwich, granted, but there's other games in and around that I don't think he's played well in. And that worries me, because the midfield is crucial to us moving forward. Bruno Guimaraes, who else is going to play with him? Is it going to be Joelinton? Are we going to get Paqueta in, or somebody else of that same ilk to play alongside Bruno? Is Shelby good enough for another season? Is Joelinton going to play to the standard that he showed in the early part of his revival under Eddie Howe? I don't know the answers to that. And I've got to think to myself, at this point, we need to look at all of these players and think, are they going to be good enough to take us forward? Joelinton, maybe. The others, I've got serious doubts about. Serious doubts. I don't know what you think about that, Chris.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair comment, mate. And Joelinton's kind of gone under the radar a little bit, hasn't he? Because obviously, you know, fans and maybe the management team to a degree have probably been singling out other players who've maybe, you know, made errors, made mistakes, and he's kind of gone under the radar a little bit. But I do agree with what you're saying. I think that Joelinton, I wouldn't say he's been bad, but I don't think that he's been, well, I'm saying I don't think he hasn't been in the outstanding form that we've seen. And if anything, you could argue that maybe he's been a little bit below par. Like, for example, as you say, over the last 3 or 4 games, I can't recall finishing a game and thinking, bloody hell, he was awful. But similarly, I don't ever recall going, oh, do you know what? He was outstanding today. And that we haven't said that for a while now about Joelinton. And that's not to criticise him. And that's not to say, oh, let's ship him out. But he's going to have to quickly rediscover that form. And he's going to have a really strong pre-season. But in no way is he the finished article. We know that this position is new to him and that he's still adapting to it. And he made a fantastic start when he got put in that position. But it does make you wonder whether the wheels have fell off a little bit. But I wanted to ask you 2 things, Pete. And the first one was from Roger there. Because I think Roger makes a really valid point when he says it's hard for Longstaff. He needs a run of games. It's impossible to be thrown in from the cold against the likes of De Bruyne. Now, to a degree, do you think Roger's got a point there? Because you do have to sympathise a little bit with Sean Longstaff because he is very much in and out the team. He's not like a Shelvey or a Bruno or a Joe who Eddie Howe goes, right, I'm going to stick with you now for 3, 4, 5 matches and gives him a run in the team. He always tends to do 1, possibly 2, and then gets, pulled out. And you have to say, against a Man City midfield that they put on show yesterday, it must have been a tough game for him. And I think we saw that. We saw that he struggled, and he struggled to kind of get a foothold in the game. But do you think that's a fair assessment, what Roger said there about Longstaff?
I think it's a very fair assessment. I agree with Roger on that wholeheartedly. I think, he does need a run of games to be able to show, like Joe Willock had a run of games and started performing really well, got a goal and was playing well. Joelinton's had a run of games since Eddie Howe's come into the club, and look at what he's done. And I agree with that. However, Sean Longstaff has had run-ins of games before this and still not played well. And I just think to myself, with the players that we're linked with and the way in which we're going to improve this squad, I'm looking at our midfield, right? I'm going to exclude Isaac Hayden from this because I think he's getting sold in the summer. And I think he knows it. I'm looking at that midfield and you've got Bruno, Shelvey, Joelinton, Joe Willock, Sean Longstaff. Am I missing anyone?
Well, Big Jeff Hendrick, obviously, but
Jesus Christ, Chris! Jesus Christ.
We're scraping the battle there, aren't we?
Yeah. We really are. Hey, if I'm excluding Isaac Hayden, I'm not even mentioning Jeff Hendrick in that conversation.
No, so I think you've included every one of them 5. They're 5 that we're realistically going to move forward with. You would think.
So they're the 5. They're the 5 midfielders that we've got right now. I'm thinking at this moment in time, in this current midfield crop, Sean Longstaff doesn't even get a game. And I'm thinking, hold on a second. We're going out there. We've been linked with Paqueta. We've been linked with a lot of other midfield types that could come in. Basuma we've been linked with. We've been linked with Calvin Phillips. We've been linked with a number of others. And I'm thinking to myself, hold on a second. If we bring 1 or even 2 of those players in, or like-minded type players in, all that's doing is pushing him down the pecking order. And I'm thinking, what's the point? What really is the point? Like, we can keep him and have him as part of the homegrown crop that we need as part of that quota for the squad, and that's great. But do we need to give a player a 4-year deal just to bump up the squad who's not really going to kick a ball? And then I think to myself, I wonder why the contract's not been signed yet. And I think maybe Sean Longstaff's thinking the same. He's thinking, what? I'm 24 years old. I could sign a 4-year contract at Newcastle until I'm 28 and maybe not kick a ball. And he's not really kicked a ball in the last year or two. And he could be 28 years old and barely kicked a ball in his footballing career in the way in which he probably should have. So maybe he's thinking, and if he's smart, if I'm being real here, he's a Geordie lad, he's come up through the academy, it's great. However, on a real level, with the firepower financially that we have and the direction that we want to go, is Sean Longstaff really the future of Newcastle United? Even if we give him a run of games, even if we give him 5, 6, 7, 10 games, we could give him the last 2 games of the season and all of pre-season and maybe start him in the season. Is he really going to improve to the point where he's going to push Shelvey, Joelinton, Willock, or even 1 or 2 new midfielders out of the team? I don't think so. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, why push the boat out for a player? Because he's probably going to improve significantly in his wages. Why push out the boat on a player that actually has probably not got really much of a future on the pitch at Newcastle United, when we could save that and use those wages on a player that's going to influence this team, who's going to take this team to the next level, just like Bruno Guimaraes did? Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, you're not, Pete. And it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, the homegrown thing always comes back. The Geordie lad thing comes back. We get that, but you're quite right, because one of the areas that we've been quite successful in recently is central midfield. You know, like Eddie Howe said, it's probably one of the strongest departments within the squad at present. And we all know that there's going to be an upgrade on the central midfield. We're not going to start next season with Joelinton, Willock and Bruno. I really do not think that will happen. I think there will be at least 1 new addition. And as you rightly say, if we're giving Sean Longstaff a new 4-year deal, he's going to be on upwards of 50 grand a week, 60 grand a week, 70 grand a week. When you shop abroad, as we know, the likes of your German league, your French league, your Spanish league, the players don't get those kinds of salaries. So that's what attracts them to come to the Premier League. We've seen it with Sven Botman. He's not on anywhere near that money. And I'm sure the vast majority of French players and German players are not on that kind of money. So if you go out and you go and buy a young up-and-coming central midfielder who you know has got the space and the trajectory to be able to kick on, would that not be better? Would that not be more progressive as a club? Would that not be the way forward? Because let's be honest, I think we're all feeling, and I don't think it's wrong of me to say this, that maybe Sean Longstaff's hit his ceiling. Is he going to get much better than what he is now? Or have we seen the best and it's, slowly on the decline? I don't know. Some people will argue, the likes of Elliot Anderson. Now, I know he's not predominantly a central midfielder, but he's a player who's gone out on loan, smashed it up with Bristol Rovers. We'll have to give that a shout out later. They absolutely adore him. And you're bringing in a player there, again, who's homegrown, and the sky's the limit. But it doesn't feel that way with Sean Longstaff. And that's the issue, isn't it? Do we give him a brand new deal and say, right, because his wages are going to be significant. I think he's already on 30, 40 grand a week now. He'll be getting a wage rise, obviously, because his contract's due to run out. So do you tie someone like him down for a 4-year deal for 50, 60 grand a week? Do you do that? It's a great question, Pete. It is.
And I just think we need to be smart. We need to be savvy with our squad this summer, because and you made a great point, is that Eddie Howe alluded to the fact that players that are liked and are good people are going to end up leaving the club this summer. And is he talking about Sean Longstaff? Is he talking about the likes of Miggy Almiron? Is he talking about Isaac Hayden? Is he talking about Matt Ritchie? Is he talking about Dwight Gale? He's probably talking about all of them. That players that he probably gets on really well with, that are genuinely nice people, that probably love playing for the club, are probably going to leave it, and he's going to have to have his ruthless hat on in order to ensure that we are pursuing the upper echelons of the Premier League, to ensure that we're pushing up there. And look, I think I for one applaud that, because it's not easy to do. But being a manager of Newcastle United has never been easy, and you always have to make big decisions. And this is Eddie Howe. In this summer is crucial for Eddie Howe's development as a manager at an elite level. I think Eddie Howe making big decisions for the club that's going to take the club to the next level is going to be the making of him potentially, or the breaking of him as manager of Newcastle United. And I think, he's going to have to make these big decisions. And I think our recruitment is going to be really, really key in that, as well as the players that leave the club. So I think it's an interesting one. And
just to add as well, Pete. Oh, sorry, go on, mate. Sorry, carry on.
I was just saying, just to round it back, going back to that point about the Man City game, is that those individual players, as well as one or two others as well, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. Okay, let the performance down because they didn't perform, and there were others that didn't perform, others that I've not mentioned that did not play well. And it wasn't down to tactics. It wasn't down to Eddie Howe. It was about the productivity of the players on the pitch. They didn't do enough to warrant getting anything from that game, or even looking like we were going to get something from the game. And that's the real shame, because we put up a fight against Liverpool. We lost 1-0, we put up a fight. We had a lot of possession. We created moments, just not very good in attack. Yesterday, we just didn't put a lace on them whatsoever. So that's just me.
No, I agree, mate. I mean, just to add as well, which I've never seen before. And me youngest lad asked me, because we were watching the match together, and he said to me, "Hey, have you seen that second half possession? Newcastle 1%." He was like, "I've never seen that." I was like, "No, nor have I. I've never seen that." I mean, I know it wasn't for the whole of the second half, but I think it was for the first 10-15 minutes, and it was like 1%. I was thinking, oh my god, like that's not acceptable, really, in professional football. Granted, City were the level above us yesterday, but I think there was a lot of respect shown, and I do wish that we pressed that little bit more and showed that little bit more hunger to try and at least put on a performance for those away fans who travelled. What I wanted to ask Pete, and again, you might want to leave this to our first guest, but one thing that really stood out for me yesterday, and it was the one thing I was going to talk about in detail, I'd love to talk with you about it, was when you were talking about that nice guy list, and you were talking about people who may or may not be on that list that Eddie Howe's looking to move on in the summer. I tell you what, when Callum Wilson came on, you could automatically see the level of class raised, couldn't you? Like it was how long was he on the pitch for? Was it like 15-20 minutes? And all of a sudden, literally within the first minute, you saw, he was challenging for the ball. He was pushing people off him. He was, running the lines. He was causing problems. And I was thinking, Chris Wood must be looking at this and thinking, yeah, my days are numbered here. Because if they bring in another top striker, Callum Wilson's going to be the number 2 to that striker, or he's going to play up front with that striker. And I've not been one to get on the bandwagon of, let's all slag Chris Wood off. But I have always said from day one, Callum Wilson is a far better striker than Chris Wood, and that showed even in that 15-20 minute cameo yesterday.
Callum Wilson had a week of training and come in and look fitter, sharper, stronger, and had better movement than Chris Wood, who's had regular training in football for how many months now. That it just shows the quality of Callum Wilson.
He's powerful, isn't he? He's powerful.
Yeah. Powerful in his running, powerful in his hold-up play. He's a bastard. He comes onto the pitch and he's pulling shirts,
he's pushing, he's shoving,
he's pushing, and he's making it difficult for strikers, and he's in their ear and he's winding them up. That is a striker. That is what a striker should be. That is what a striker should be for Newcastle United. Is that he is that, and he's not the biggest, he's not the tallest, he's not the strongest, but he looks it in the way that he plays, and he's powerful and he's running behind. And I tell you what, if he'd have been playing for another 5 or 10 minutes longer, he'd have put that chance away. The chance probably came a little bit too early for him. He was just kind of finding his feet into the game. It was a great chance, and it was unlucky. But, when have we seen Chris Wood in that position to score that type of chance? And he's not been flagged offside, It's one
there was that one chance, because it was funny, because when he went through, I don't know if you thought the same, when he went through, I thought, this is nearly almost the exact same position that Chris Wood. And Callum Wilson hit the keeper, obviously, he got it on target, but he hit the keeper similar to Chris Wood. But then I thought to myself, Callum Wilson's been out for 4.5 months.
Yeah.
Callum Wilson's been on the pitch for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Like
you say, if he'd played all the games that Chris Wood's played, he'd have buried that.
Yeah.
No question, that would have been buried.
It's a snapshot. In another situation, he'd have gone near post. He would have took it round the keeper. He would have made the keeper work. He would have done something a little bit different. And he's just a better striker. And that it just tells you the gulf in class of Wilson and Wood. That's for sure. But we're gonna get a guest on in a second. But lots of you in the chat very, very early on were sharing their condolences. Their condolences for Steve. Obviously losing his mum over the weekend, which is obviously really, really sad news on behalf of all of us. It matters. He messaged us and let us know, which we appreciate. And thank you to everyone all putting your comments in right from the beginning. Joelinton for life as well. Junior Turner's in the house. Good to have you in. Massive appreciation for everyone that's put their comments in for Steve. I know he'll watch this back if he's not watching live. He'll appreciate all the comments that you put in, and it does mean a lot to him. Obviously, going through a really difficult time at the moment. So keep Steve and his family in your thoughts, and I'm sure Steve will be back on very, very soon. That is for sure. But thank you for everyone in your comments, and it was important that we got that message out before we got the new guests or the guests coming on. And so we move on to those guests, and I'm really, really intrigued to hear what they've got to say. And first one up in the green room is Darren. So welcome, Darren. How you doing?
Hello, boys. It's not too bad. I kind of agree with Chris about Joelinton. He hasn't played a good game for about the last 3 games, and he's played good against Norwich and Brentford, but he hasn't been outstanding. And he's like one of the players yesterday. I forgot he was playing because I had to double check the team sheet if he was playing or not. ESM started the weekend off with the French newspaper article saying if you had better players, you have more assists. And to me, if I was a player in that team, I'd be going to him and saying, "Who the hell are you talking about, mate?" Because he's not great, he's not world class. And on Sunday, he's not. And now he's a attacker on the left. Get back and defend. You're not going to help the lads. And number 10, you didn't bother going back.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really, really great point, Davin. I mean, we were was it on loads of people we were talking about on Saint-Maximin's comments, or was it might have been in the chat? I don't know whether we've been on. You may have been on, but I don't think I've been on.
There was a little bit of a conversation about ASM. I don't think we talked about him too much. I'll be honest with you.
It's just a funny comment to make, isn't it? I mean, I don't care what anyone says. He's meant it how it was translated. That's what he's meant. And I know people will say, "Oh, no, he didn't mean it like that," and that's not how it. I mean, I could be wrong, but did he not say it in French?
Yeah, he did. He said it in French, and then he's realised what a mistake he's made. And he went to Eddie Howe and said, I didn't mean it like that. You did mean that, mate. You know what you said. He's done that deliberately, and he's not. If he wants to go, mate. We'll get better play on you. You're not world class. Like I say, yes, you watched the game yesterday. I watched it to the end. Unfortunately, I wanted to watch it all the way at the end. And Pete, like you say, we conceded 2 goals in the last 8 minutes of the game. We're going to be 3-0. And Man City and the quick passing, they can destroy any team. Just unfortunately, Newcastle. We're done all right. Chris Wood again should have scored all day long. But when Callum Wilson come on, you can tell the difference on him. He was a bit only been to him a week. He swore shot on Chris Woods. Yeah. So it's the one still out even Dan Burn. That's probably the first bad game he's had since he's come to Toon. Dan Burn. But I'm not
he was back.
Tells me Sean Longstaff, I would not give him a new contract. I would say you've had your chance. You're done. Sell by days gone. Can't get somebody else.
Yeah. Chris, thoughts?
Yeah. Do you know what, mate? I think I'm on the fence over Sean Longstaff. I'm maybe I'm still living in the Ashley days. I don't know, but I do think there is an asset there, and I do think if you give him a new contract, you could potentially move him on in 12 months and get 5 or 10 million. I know really I shouldn't be feeling like that or thinking like that because obviously money isn't top of our agenda anymore, and trying to get as much value as we can out of players shouldn't really be the priority. The interesting one for me, Davin, which you raised, is Chris Wood, and it was only yesterday. And don't get me wrong, like I said to Pete earlier, I know there's a different class between Wilson and Wood, but like I didn't think it'd be that obvious. I didn't think Callum Wilson coming on the pitch yesterday, even against a Man City side who were absolutely playing around with us like it was men against boys, and he still made the difference when he came on, and he still looked head and shoulders above Chris Wood, even though we're not in height. I think it raises big doubts for me now over Chris Wood. And I never thought I'd say that. And having him as an option off the bench, I know that's a possibility. But it does make me think now: is it time to just cut the line with him and just say, listen, thanks for all your help, thanks for coming in, thanks for leading the line. But I think in order for us to progress how we want to progress, I think it's about us going for bigger and better. I really do, because as I say, I was absolutely gobsmacked at the impact that Callum Wilson had. I knew he was better, but I didn't think I would see that much difference in such a short space of time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You see, like Lascelles again, he had a good chance to score a header. Well, he should. It's like a centre half dream. Just go on, son, get in there.
Is that the Lascelles header that where the goal got ruled out?
No, but it's I think it was just after. Yeah. Yes, it was. Sorry, yes. When Bruno was offside,
that was going in. You know, if Bruno wasn't there, that would have been a goal. So he got it because I was watching that and I was thinking that's a great header, and he gets on the ball really well, heads it down, but because Bruno's there, it hits him, it hits Bruno, and then Wood puts it in.
Yeah,
but Bruno's offside, so that's why it gets ruled out. But actually, if you watch it back, Lascelles' head is going in. The keeper's not getting anywhere near it. If Bruno's not there, it's 1-1, and that changes the game. So I've noticed actually Lascelles has been quite heavily involved in our attacking set pieces when he's played. And there's been a couple. There was the cut back right at the back post against Norwich where the ball gets whipped to the back post. He kind of cuts it back with his foot. It gets cleared, but there's a player running onto it. He seems to be heavily involved in our set pieces at the moment. And he seems to be
He's Debbie Helen at the back too. Getting lost.
Yeah, that's probably his problem, is that at the back is where he's and that's what he gets paid for. That's where he's kind of not really doing the business. But yeah, that's a separate thing. The one thing I'll say about Chris Wood is that we talked about this a number of weeks ago, maybe in a month or so ago, and I think I raised the point about Chris Wood and saying about it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if we cut our losses in the summer. So we paid 25 million for him. If we were to sell him for around 15 million, if we were to get 15 million from him and sell him on and maybe lose 10 million to ensure that we could get maybe 2 strikers in, a top level first choice striker, and then a backup that's better than Wood and Gale, and have Wilson as another option in the middle, I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world. A little bit like we did with Darren Murphy. Darren Murphy did his job in the Championship. Didn't play all the time, but scored important goals at important parts of the season under Rafa Benitez that got us promoted. It was a case of, you've done the job, thank you very much, on your way. I wouldn't be against the fact if that happened to Chris Wood in the summer. If he stays, he stays, but he's going to be third choice. He ain't going to kick a ball. And at 30 years old, that probably might not be what he wants right now.
I think stay personally. I think he'll stay for another season.
He will, but I wouldn't be against him being sold and us cutting our losses for him. I don't know. I don't know whether I should talk about the ASM situation or not. Or wait until later.
I reckon ASM seems to be a popular topic in the chat, and it's something that Chules feels very strongly about. So we will talk about it later, probably when we go to the questions, Pete, because we can probably do a whole section on him.
Questions in on ASM, and I'll do my best to answer them. Because
I'll drop my free ones that can. If you're going to, I'll drop them off. If we can get
no, not at all. Yeah, I've got my opinions on ASM.
I know. I don't know, Peter. It's just. He thinks when Alice tape and all that, he thinks he's still playing WWF sometimes, and he's meant to help with the defence by getting back, and he's not going to even do that. That's probably his first cross he's put in the last 4 weeks. For Chris Woods, he's done. I don't know. He's not a team player, and what he said the weekend, that's just lost me. If I'm on his team, if anybody in my team said, "Oh, I need a better player," well, yeah, get lost in. I'll reform him. If I like, that's why you went Eddie Howe, in my opinion. You went Eddie Howe, saying, "Yeah, I didn't mean like that," but apparently, everyone who's read the French article said it's no misunderstood, and he said it.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what, Dan? Like, he's not said it against me, so I'm not too bothered. Do you know what I mean? But I take your point in that if I was an attacking player who played with Saint-Maximin, I wouldn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
I do think there is a meaning in there. Maybe he hasn't meant it as venomously as it's come out, but even so, you know, like it's just not.
Come from me. That's just come from if I was playing football. I
Yeah,
still do
yeah,
football.
yeah. No,
If
exactly.
any of my teammates said that, I'll be going, "Who are you talking to?" Do you know what I mean? That'll get my back because I've always been a voiceless person when I played football. But if any of my teammates said that, that's what I would say. Do you know what I mean, Chris?
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. I do agree. What I want to ask you as well, both of you, this is the one that got away, I think. What did you think of? And again, it kind of backs up Saint-Maximin's point. Maybe I don't think it was Saint-Maximin who put the ball in actually, but what did you think of Wood's headed chance when he got it on target? But it was a team effort, and it was 5 or 6 yards out, and I think that was at 0-0. If I'm right in saying, he's got to be gobbling them up, hasn't he? He's got to be burying them.
6-yard box. He's not going to get any other better chance to score that, is he? To be realistic, he's got to burst the net.
I've got to say, it's a fabulous cross. I don't know who put the ball in.
I can't remember.
It's a fabulous cross. I'm joking.
Fair play.
Was it ASM?
Yeah.
Well, that all the more backs up, doesn't it? That all the more backs up what he's saying, I suppose, because that should have gone in. That should have gone in.
Yeah, look, we know it should have gone in. It was a great cross. It was a brilliant cross. Anyone else, Callum Wilson, anybody else puts the ball in the net. It's as simple as that. For me, it's not necessarily about the cross. It emphasised the point that I've been making for a long time now, is that ASM is better on the right-hand side. When he plays on the right-hand side, his ability to get balls into the box, his ability to just simplify his game, be more direct, cut this crap out of this, cutting in on his right-hand side. I'm sick of it. It bores me to tears. He's so predictable. All the teams in the Premier League now, knows what he does now. He doesn't even do anything different. He just gets wider and wider with his cutting in. He just needs to simplify his game, play on the right-hand side, run at defenders, cross it in. Keep it simple. He would get his assists on the back of that because there'd be players that would get on the end of it. He did it again later on in the game where Wilson, he cuts it back to Wilson and Wilson just misses it. He goes to swipe it in, but he just kind of doesn't get the right connection. It just falls a little bit far behind it. But he's better on the right-hand side. I don't understand. I understood why Bruce didn't play him there because Bruce is stupid and he doesn't know what he's doing. So I understand why he didn't play him there. But I'm looking at the situation, I'm thinking, you know, when we've got, in this current crop of wingers, when they're all fit, Fraser on the left, ASM on the right, play ASM direct, get Ryan Fraser playing in his preferred position because when he plays there, we saw what he did against Brentford. He tore them to shreds single-handedly when he played away at Brentford. Did Fraser on the left-hand side. Play ASM on the right. When ASM has done anything good assist-wise, it's come from the right-hand side. You know, that's just a thing for me. And that just, it wasn't about the cross. It wasn't about the poor finish. It just, when I watched that, I just thought to myself, why is he not playing there all the time?
Let's say he's choosing to play on the left. Let's say he's telling Eddie he wants to play on the left. Another possibility.
But it shouldn't be his choice. It shouldn't be his choice. He might prefer to play on the left because he wants to be one of those inside forwards that cuts inside and shoot, and that's great. But his shots are crap.
Yeah.
We were there. I was there at Leicester. He had 2 or 3 of those great opportunities where he cut in fantastically well, and the ball just trickled to the goalkeeper, or he ballooned them into the Gallagher. Like if you're gonna justify your position playing there, you've got to be more consistent with your shooting. It's as simple as that, and he's not. So be more effective on the right-hand side where you're being effectively a winger. an old style winger. You're running down the wing, you're whipping balls in. That's just my opinion.
And every time he's getting touched, he's thinking he's either got an injury or he's being kicked massively. He's like, just get up, mate, crack up the game. You're not wrong with you. It's like, that's another thing he needs to cut out too.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It can be frustrating at times. You know, he's not playing in. I can't even really say he's not playing in France anymore, because France is quite a physical league as well, probably just as physical as the Premier League. So he just needs to get on with it. You know, I'm looking at Riyad Mahrez. He rides tackles all the time.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Jack Grealish, who was on the other side of the pitch, rides tackles all the time. You look at Sadio Mane, Salah, you know, the players that he's quoting and looking up to in his article about Sadio Mane's and all the rest of it. Those players ride tackles all the time, and they don't go rolling around on the floor. They just get up and get on with it, because that's what opposition players don't want to see. They want to see you rolling around on the floor, because you know what? They'll do it again, and they'll do it again. If they know they've got you. If they see that you're not bothered by it, if they see you get up off the ground, you get up, you bounce up, and you get on with it, then they're not inclined to do it again, because they know it's not affecting you. But if you're going to keep rolling around and hands up and all the rest of it, and I get why fans are frustrated. Because it can be frustrating at times, but it doesn't necessarily frustrate me. I just think he needs to be smarter in his game. He needs to be smarter. He needs to let people know that he's not affected by it. Cristiano Ronaldo is the perfect example. He used to get chopped down all the time at Man United when he first got signed for them. And he was the classic winger, running, trickery, step overs, all the rest of it. And he was going and he was rolling around. He was arms in the air like ASM. But then all of a sudden something clicked and he went, I'm not going to be affected by it anymore. So every time he got chopped down, he just got back up, walked away. You know what? They stopped doing it. Yeah. Because they knew it wasn't affecting him. ASM's in that moment where he needs to go, you know what? It needs to be that light bulb moment. I need to stop doing this. And whenever that happens, I don't know, but it'll be to the benefit of him when it does.
Wait, another question for you. After the Brogba's mistake on Sunday, that tells me personally, do you think you'll get a better keeper for next season? What do you think?
I think so, even more so now. I've always been a fan of Dubravka, and you know I do think he's been a great signing, one of Rafa's best signings actually. But I know Pete's been banging this drum for a while now, but I do think we need a new number one, because that just highlights you can't afford mistakes like that. And do you know what? I watched the shot back a few times, and I don't even think it was that difficult. No. I don't even think it was, you know, like a proper stinger where, you know, he's just misjudged it. I just think that he's not in the. I don't think his body shape was right. I don't think he got down quick enough, and you can't afford mistakes like that in the Premier League, because you get punished, as exactly like we saw. I know Ruben Diaz was quick to react, and he tried to put the ball in the net, which Dubravka then palmed away, and then that's when you know, the opportunity was taken to just tap it in the net. But the mistake shouldn't have happened in the first place. It wasn't that much of a good shot.
You always feel you've got a mistake coming, don't you? Like you wait like a shot with a goal. You always like on tens he's going to do a mistake, because that's how I feel when I watch Dubravka. He's got that mistake in him in a match, and like you need to cut that out.
I agree with that point. I mean, Dubravka. Look, I think I mentioned it on the reaction show. I think Dubravka had shots with more power hit at him during that game that he collected with ease.
Yeah,
and so it was a mistake, clearly, because it wasn't the toughest of shots into him, and he's let it slip. Dubravka, I love Dubravka, and I think he's been fantastic for Newcastle. We bought him for peanuts, and he's come in and done an amazing job. It was a great bit of business getting him in. However, at some point, and at 33 years old, you need to know that you're not guaranteed your place every week. And at some point, we need to upgrade. You know, with our previous owner, Martin Dubravka would still be at Newcastle United's number one at 36, 37 years old, because it's just the easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And he'd still be putting, decent performances in, the odd mistake here and there, and it'd be okay. For us and the way we're progressing, Dubravka needs to know next season that he has to perform at his absolute maximum if he wants to be number one goalkeeper. And so I agree with you, Darren, that I think we need a new goalkeeper. And Chris is right. I've been saying it for a while. Who that goalkeeper is, who knows? But it needs to be a goalkeeper that's better than Dubravka, that's going to push Dubravka to be better. That's
actually Dean Henderson. Me personally, I like that Dean Henderson.
It's the easy option because obviously he wants out of Man United and he's not playing at the moment.
But how much is he going to cost? That's the thing.
I don't think it costs a lot. I think for a goalkeeper of his level, considering Everton paid 30 million for Pickford, who got relegated that same season with Sunderland, I think we could probably get a deal for Henderson around 20-25 million, and I think that would be about right.
Add-ons, 5 million add-ons,
maybe 20 million with 5 million add-ons. I think would be a suitable deal in my opinion. I don't think anything more than that because he hasn't played enough football in the last couple of years. So I think if we got him for about 20 million with 5 million add-ons or a straight 25 million pound deal, I think that would be a significant deal and a good deal for us financially. But I don't know who we're going to sign as a goalkeeper, but we need to be better than Dubravka, in my opinion. Dubravka always has these games every so often, and it's always away from home where he has games where he just can't save a thing.
No.
And some of these goals, he wasn't at fault for, but yesterday was one of those games where he just didn't look at the races.
Well, so especially when he got the league, the way how Man City playing the score and goal, left, right, and centre line, and he's helping doing still out, and goal wasn't a hard shot, and then he's like, oh Christ, everything against us, which is bad enough. Do you know what I mean? Howe, help us out. Yeah,
and that's what you need. You need a goalkeeper at the Etihad to be on absolute fire, that's unstoppable. And there's goalkeepers that have been to the Etihad and done exactly that, and you need that in those type of games. And that's the only thing that maybe can frustrate me about Dubravka is that he has these moments. You never know when they're going to come. You never know when these games are going to happen. But he just comes in and just has a really bad game and nothing stays out. It's just one of those things. He has games where he's unbeatable. But he also has these games where nothing stays out and everything goes in and he ends up losing. I remember we were at the King Power, Chris, earlier on in the season for the Leicester game where we ended up losing 4-0. And that second half, Dubravka just wasn't keeping anything out. He had a shocker. Some of their goals weren't even great goals.
They were awful.
He just, positional wise, he was just all over the place. He just wasn't at the races. And he just has those moments. And
he doesn't command his box, does he? Enough for me.
But he should, because he's good in the air. But I think I don't know whether the Euros messed him up when he had that really bad mistake for his country.
When he got lobbed.
Yeah, and like he kind of pushed it back into his own goal, I think, or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know whether that's thrown him off, but normally he's really good at commanding his area and he's really good at taking the pressure off the defenders. But since he's come back from this injury this season, that commanding of the area, coming out, collecting balls, being big and strong in the air, it's not been the same. He hasn't done it as often. So defenders are having to bail themselves out rather than the goalkeeper doing it. But I don't know. He's a good goalkeeper. He's probably a top 10 goalkeeper. But we probably want a goalkeeper that's going to take us above the top 10 into the next level. And I think that's what we've been linked since January with a new goalkeeper, which says to me that that's exactly what Eddie Howe wants in the summer. And someone that's better on the ground as well, someone on his feet. Someone said Sam Johnson just then in the chat. I think Sam Johnson's going to be number 2. There's links with Man United, with potentially Dean Henderson leaving. There's links with Tottenham as well. I think whoever Sam Johnson goes to is going to be a number 2, which is a shame because he's a good goalkeeper. I don't think he's better than Dubravka, so I wouldn't personally go for him. But I think he's one of them that will probably go to another club and be a second choice.
I think another thing, I think early on as you mentioned, I think we need about another 3 midfield players, me personally, because it just tells me Joelinton, I think, can you do it next year if you want to go to the next level, especially away from home, because against good teams he goes missing. And I think Shelby, Hayden, I think their days are gone. And I think we need we need 3 personally to go forward for next season. 1 striker and a centre half.
It wouldn't be a bad shout. I saw an article today. I think it was Luke Edwards actually that said Newcastle are targeting 6 players in the transfer window. Believe that is
Recently last week.
But yeah, it's looking like from his perspective that it could be about 6 players. It sounds about right. And I think it would depend on who goes. But the interesting thing that he mentioned is that we'll also be looking at the loan market too, which is what me and Chris mentioned a few weeks back, is that the loan market is something that we as a fan base literally since January haven't talked about at all as being a potential in the summer. And we have the capacity to get loans, whether it's in Europe or in this country. And I think us being smart and being savvy with our money, we're going to have to look at that loan option. And I think there'll be loan options out there for good players who want to play football, particularly just before a World Cup, that I think we could exploit because we'll have the money to do it. And yeah, that's just something to keep an eye on. One of the potential loan deals.
Yeah, I totally agree. I see that the good loan players are getting loan players. I see how to go and get Target. I'd sign him tomorrow because him and Trippier when they're back, and it's good to see Trippier back take the set piece again on Sunday. Beat the first man on a set piece. It's better. Good to see.
Definitely, great to have him back. That's for sure. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the Arsenal game. But look, Darren, at this point now, because I know there's a couple waiting in the chat, I'm going to let you go. But great to have you on.
I'm at the match next week, so I'll not be on. So I'll be the following week.
I don't think there'll be a show next week because it's on a Monday. The game's on Monday night, so we'll get confirmation from Steve, but and we'll get it out there if that's the case. But yeah, you enjoy the game, and fingers crossed for those 3 points, which I think we'll get. So enjoy it, mate.
Cheers, lad. Always a pleasure.
Top man. You take
care, Darren. All the best, mate.
See you later. Great to have Darren on. Great points as always. Yeah. Like I say, we touched on ASM. We can talk about that in a bit. People get their questions in the chat. I think you mentioned Trolls has got 1 or 2 things about ASM that maybe he's not happy with. That will be interesting. But yeah, lots of good points regarding lots of things Newcastle United. And yeah, the goalkeeper situation will be one to keep an eye on because
it will.
I think there'll be a lot of moving parts in this summer. Maybe people being sold that we may not be necessarily expecting to be sold, and maybe 1 or 2 surprise signings that we maybe haven't even thought about coming into the club. So yeah, I think
you're right, mate. I think there's going to be some signings that obviously we aren't expecting. Maybe in positions we aren't expecting. I mean, we're all assuming what Eddie Howe's thinking, but who knows? We could bring in competition for ASM at left wing. We could bring in competition for Kieran Trippier at right back. Who knows? I suppose it just depends about it. Well, it'll depend on us being, proactive. And if there's an opportunity there, I'm sure Eddie Howe and the owners will take it if they think the player's worth it and they're good enough. But it'd be interesting to see how many come in.
Definitely. That is for sure. But look, we'll go straight ahead with our next guest. Been itching to get on, nodding away with lots of comments being made in the chat whilst we were talking to Darren. But interesting to what he's got to say. Welcoming Alan. How you doing?
Hey lads. Well, was it a shock we got beat? No, not really.
No.
Class team, lads. You've made some great points. Same with Darren. Regarding, I'll try and crack on. I've got 20,000 things to say. Regarding Longstaff, Chris, there was a great question by Roger in the chat. Well, Sterling hasn't played for 9 games. He comes on. It's what quality we want, Chris, and the people in the chat. Yeah. Going forward, I had this debate, Pete, a few weeks ago with Murphy. Will these players get in the top 6 where we want to be? Will they get where we're in the Champions League and fighting for the title? and they're not going to do it, lads. Longstaff's had a lot of chances to prove. I'm all in Geordie lad but I'm still expecting Poirot to be on the pitch to find out where he was yesterday, because I never seen him. He was anonymous. And I know people will say, well, you need to run a games, but I'm afraid he's had too many for me. Sorry.
Alan, do you think, sorry to interrupt you, do you think Sean Longstaff is going to get better?
Do
you think
not now, Pete. Not now.
Regardless
After his injury, he has never been the same as far as pace is concerned. When he first burst on the scene, he was really quick, box to box, and I thought, that's a great midfield player. Once he got that injury at West Ham, he has never been quick as he was. Never been the same player. And I don't think now he will improve, personally. I don't think he would. Another player, Pete, you made a list of questions about players on the shop window. I put Miggy in that bracket, Pete.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Chris, there was a chance after, nobody probably mentioned it, but after 3 minutes, he had the chance. It was similar to Crystal Palace. He was on the right wing, bursting forward. Instead of moving in the box, he turned back.
Yeah.
And he's only scored one person in the chat said, 1 goal in 40 appearances. Isn't good enough.
No assists.
Yeah, it's just simply, Chris, Pete, it simply isn't good enough. Well,
it goes back to the Jonas Gutierrez days, doesn't it, Alan? Because everyone used to love Jonas, and his story was fantastic, and he was a fantastic fella, and the way he was treated was absolutely disgraceful. But we had the same conversation over Jonas. It was like, you can't have a winger who produces numbers like that. You just can't. He didn't produce enough, and that was the problem. He scored that great goal against West Ham, to secure our safety. But when you look back over the season, I think he scored like 2 goals or something. And it's like, for a modern day winger, you can't have that. You need more.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, Chris, Pete, he's probably only scored about 10 goals in his Newcastle career, and he's had more appearances than Joelinton, who were in the past, before he became a midfield player, were absolutely slated. So as much as his work ethic is brilliant, he's a squad player at best, lads. Squad player for everybody. Now I'm going to get into the ESM debate, Pete. I'm on your side. Literally, I'm on your side, Pete, because in 5 minutes it showed you why it's so frustrating. The cross for Wood, who should have buried it. The only bench I want to see Chris Wood on, Chris, is Gateshead's next year. That's the only bench I want to see Chris Wood on. I'm sorry, he's great, but he's a George Riley before your time, lads. But he's a George Riley to me, Chris Wood. He's a George Riley of the 80s. And all that people in the chat will know who George Riley is. 6'7", and he couldn't jump higher than a paper underneath his feet. Chris Wood, good for diminishing Burnley's chances of staying up, but he's worked hard, bless him. He's a true professional, but it's simple facts, lads. It's not good enough. It's just not good enough. I mean, it really is stating the obvious, really. The man of the match yesterday for me was my favourite man again, Taggart. Simply alone for jumping on the Man City's back in the second half got me man of the match.
Yeah, that was class. He just hung on his back.
He never got booked for it. He got booked for holding Sterling back later on. I thought, Taggart, you've been lucky there not getting sent off. But anyway, but at times he defended well. But on the ASM debate, Pete, the cross comes over, brilliant cross. Wood should have scored. We all know that. Every man is dog. And that's what he was complaining about in the press. And I've got no doubt he said what he did. But 5 minutes later, he didn't track back and Sterling scores. And people go, I blame you for that. Yeah. But people say about attitude, like Ryan in the chat said about attitude. You don't have that attitude if you're with better players than you. And that's what we've got to get before ASM's on the bench.
Yeah, rise to that level.
Then he's on the bench and he's got to prove to himself and the others that he should be in the team. It's the other way around at the minute, Pete.
Alan, you watch, and you probably saw this, and Chris, you probably saw this too. People in the chat may have saw this too. I was watching the game, and the game was just coasting. It was just coasting. We weren't really doing anything in the second half, just coasting. Callum Wilson comes onto the pitch, and all of a sudden, 10% comes up with ASM. ASM automatically raises his game again.
He looked
knows
far better.
he's got a player. He knows he's got a player on the pitch that's at his level, that has his understanding of the way the game's played. And he talks about Callum Wilson a lot. And we had this discussion last week, and we were thinking, well, does Callum Wilson want to be playing with ASM? Will he like the fact that ASM's there? Will he get the ball? He sometimes gets frustrated. No, they connected really well. They had an understanding. All of a sudden, ASM's buzzing around, and he's getting the ball, and he's looking to get it into the box, and he's pulling out wide right and whipping balls in and looking dangerous. And it's like all of a sudden, he's looking around. He's got Trippier at right back, who's quality. He's got Wilson. He's got other players, Bruno, and he's like, yeah, I understand where ASM's coming from at that point. And you could argue, yes, it shouldn't take those players coming on to raise your game, but as a footballer, it makes a difference. We've all played football before. When you play football, we've all played football before. Sometimes where we've been in a lesser quality team, and it's sometimes very frustrating knowing that you're a decent player and you're surrounded by players that maybe not are of the same level as you, and it can be frustrating. And especially be frustrating when all the emphasis is on you to make the difference. All of a sudden, Callum Wilson comes on, so they've got to think about another player on the pitch. Trippier comes on, so they've got to think another better quality player on the pitch. Bruno's already on the pitch. Then ASM, and all of a sudden, ASM's looking around and he's going, there's 3 or 4 other quality players on the pitch the same level as me.
Yeah.
The emphasis is not on me anymore. And this is the point that I made. I think I made it on the reaction show. But actually, I made this point to the Geordies down south lads, because we had a fantastic conversation early this morning, and they were talking about the ASM situation. And I said, it gets to the point where ASM, week in, week out, is the best attacking player on the pitch, or the one attacking player that can actually make the difference in this team. But sometimes players, when they've got that pressure on them, when they've got all these players around them, when he's bombarded by 3 or 4 players every time he gets the ball, because opposition teams know he's the only one that can make the difference. That can be frustrating. But you put Callum Wilson in the team, you put Trippier in the team, you put Bruno in the team, and you put other players that the opposition team have to then think about as well as ASM, opens up space for him. It gives him time. It gives him less players that he has to take on. When he gets the ball, he's not got 4 players around him. He's got 2 this time. So it's a little bit different. He can affect the game a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. Quality players, they need that. I think the argument was set about Sadio Mane, about the levels of quality. Sadio Mane is not the only top player in the team. Sadio Mane, when he was at Southampton, used to get crowded out for that reason, because he was the best player in the team at Southampton. So he used to get crowded out, and he used to have to produce magic in order to win games for Southampton. He's come to Liverpool. He's got Salah. He's got Firmino. He's got Diaz. He's got Thiago coming from deep. He's got Fabinho. He's got so many other quality players that actually the teams are worried about all of the players, which means he can affect the game when he gets the ball, because the emphasis isn't on stopping him. And that was the thing that I took away from that. And that's why all of a sudden ASM just goes, I'm ready to play now, because he gets more time on the ball. He's got less players marking him. He can affect the game in more areas. And I just thought, am I wrong in thinking that? I don't know.
No.
That was my feeling.
I'm with you, Pete, because if you notice the 2 great teams of our day, and they are great teams in my opinion, Man City, Liverpool, the players on the bench are just as more important as the players on the pitch, because they spur them on to be better players. And if you haven't got that coming on, Jacob Murphy comes on. The difference with Phil Foden coming on, the difference is huge, lads. And that's where we've got to get to. And I know a lot of people say, well, ASM's not doing it, and he's always got that French attitude. And I'm with you, Pete. Marnie and Salah had it just up about a year ago, Chris. You might have seen it in Liverpool. They didn't get on for a while. But then Marnie's probably thought, hey, I'm never going to find another better club than this with the players and the quality of players we've got. It's about getting a squad of great players. And don't get us wrong, Pete. ASM, it'll be on, in my eyes, I want to be, in a year's time, I want ASM on the bench, desperate to get on to prove how good he is. That's what I want. And people are saying, get rid of him. No, you've got to build it until we get, I always said it, Pete, Chris, until you get better than him, then you're allowed to let him go through the back door for a world save of 30, 40 million, who are desperate. Me personally, Chris Wood, I know I've slated him just before there, but the ideal scenario for me, Chris, would be in January next year, when some teams at the bottom are desperate for a striker, to let him go for a top price, say a 15, 20 million, Pete, because they're wanting a striker. That's the top teams do that with players. They slowly get them out the squad. I mean, to be honest with you, Pete, Chris, there's 7 players and the list goes on. Some of them have been really loyal servants to the team. And I mean, Captain Calamity was just as good as I've always expected him to be yesterday, Lascelles. Yes, he did save with one's time, Pete, but he's like a rabbit in the headlights. There's no confidence in the back line when and he cannot pass the ball. He simply cannot pass the ball forward. It's sideways or backwards. And every time he passes forward, it's to an opposing player. He's lost all sense of confidence in himself to actually play well. He's good at going forward, Pete, at set players. He scored some crucial goals last year forward. And he still do that. But I want him gone. I hope he never plays for Newcastle again, lads. I think he probably will, and he's been a good servant. Ritchie, Fernandez, Clark, Gale, Henricks, and Hayden. Them are the 7 players alone, lads, I would like to be gone in the summer. And that's not talking on Longstaff and Miggy, So there's going to be, I'm looking forward to it with excitement and a bit of trepidation, the transfer window in the summer. And I just hope we ain't disappointed, really. I hope the owners, and after the game on Sunday, we all know how far we're behind the top 2. It's a question of what people want in the chat, whether we just want to be like Conte says, do you just want to be middle? You're going to have to spend money, and recruitment's going to be crucial. This summer, winter time, next summer, going forward, lads, it's all about getting the right. And the likes of Dan Ashworth, people that see in the background in the academy, it's all about that as one. You can't overestimate how big a job Eddie Howe's done and how big a job he's still got to go. And I agree again, Pete, Chris, it's going to be the making and breaking of Eddie Howe. And in the future going forward, the next 2, 3, 4 years, people might expect too much. But if we finish 8th and next year, I won't be too disappointed. It depends on who we get, lads. If we get 5 Brunos, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I know I'm repeating myself, then I would expect with the challenge for a Conference or Europa League, because I do think we're not that far away from West Ham and Leicester if we get 5, 6 quality players. But I wasn't shocked at all, lads, we got beat. I felt sorry for the fans again, lads, to go all that way, knowing you're getting a hammering. But they are a quality team, and they're the standard bearers with Liverpool. My prayers didn't get answered, Chris. Everton are staying up.
They are, aren't they?
I was really crying more about their result than I was my own, to be honest.
I could not believe that result. I've got to be honest. Like I was in shock. I mean, I was working on the weekend and I was watching the Arsenal Leeds game, and Leeds just folded. And my youngest lad, who's an Everton fan, he was watching the Everton game downstairs. And he was screaming and everything. He told me about the Mikalenko goal, which was a great goal, by the way. Where someone
I've never seen any of it, Chris. I couldn't face it.
Great goal. Yeah, but when I seen it get to full time, I was thinking, how the hell have Everton gone to the King Power and won there? I mean, they haven't won a away game since August.
Law of averages, Chris.
They go and beat Leicester at King Power, and I just thought, bloody hell! I mean, look what happened to us at the King Power.
Yeah.
Leicester have got some big troubles if Everton are beating them. I tell you.
I mean, to be fair, it worked in our favour because Leicester below us, as far as position. Because if we beat Arsenal and Burnley, we've got a chance of being in the top 10, lads.
Yeah.
You know, the league's that tight. So, you know, there's chances there. But I do believe it's between Burnley and Leeds now, lads. So we could send Leeds down if we beat Burnley or lose against Burnley, sorry. Or Leeds could go down. I think on paper, I cannot see any of them two teams getting another point, actually, lads.
No.
I cannot. I think it's going to be 1 point in it between the two of them. And whoever gets that point will stay in the league. I really do.
It's crazy, though, isn't it? Because when Everton won, you know, there was all this positivity, and I'm not knocking any Everton fans for the positivity because it's a fantastic result. But then when you look at the league table, it's like they're a point ahead of Burnley and Leeds, and you think, bloody hell, you know, it's still not guaranteed that Everton will stay up. It's certainly looking more positive, but knowing Everton, they'll go to Leicester and win, and then they'll go to Watford and lose, and then
that's
you're like,
the crucial one.
They're like back in it.
Chris, I was just going to say to Richie, who's an Everton fan in the chat, if they got beat off Watford, I'll be back out saying, ooh, because the pressure will be back on Everton, especially playing at home, and you never know the way Chelsea are playing. Leeds might seek a draw or even a win. You never know. But I do fear for Leeds, to be honest with you. But I must admit, of the three teams, I do fear Leeds the most to go down, there is.
Yeah, it looks that way. It certainly looks that way.
And
I like a bit of that from David Cook.
Oh,
like
definitely.
We'll have a bit of that.
Yesterday, lads.
We'll have a
I
bit
said
of that.
exactly that yesterday.
And
I was asking a question. Sorry, go on, Alan. Go on.
No, I'll tell you the person I told you ever mentioned. I know Raphinha and Phillips, but I'll tell you one thing, lads. I like that Jack Harrison. I think he's a superb player, and he hardly gets a mention.
He stepped up this year, doesn't he? Really
you know, he doesn't get much, but he scored some good goals and he creates a lot for Leeds. I think he's a cracking player. Me, Jack Harrison. If they were to go down, I wouldn't be against him joining, because it's all about squad building, lads. Really is.
Yeah.
What squad is paper thin on quality, because don't forget, everybody in the chat, the majority of these players came up with when we got promoted 5 years ago. You know,
at the moment, our backup wingers, Alan, if you think, you know, if you think across the squad, our backup wingers, assuming ASM and Fraser are the first choice, our backup wingers are Miggy, Jacob Murphy, and Matt Ritchie. And you think if you brought in a Jack Harrison into that, he automatically upgrades, doesn't he? Because if you started Jack Harrison on the wing, it wouldn't be a bad signing. Some people may raise their eyebrows and go, "Oh, it's only Jack Harrison," but he's a marked improvement on what we've got at the moment as our understudies.
So one man from Leeds, and that's Raphinha.
Oh, Raphinha would be he's first choice straight in.
I said this on the loaded reaction. I was asked the question about, you know, or we were asked the question about, you know, about how we felt regarding Leeds being in the bottom three, and I said, you know, obviously, me and you, Alan, we've talked about we want Everton down. We would have loved Everton down. We're disappointed they're not in the bottom three. However,
still got the Prem out, Pete.
It's still a possibility. It's not over.
It's not over.
We cannot guess how it's going to go, because we wouldn't have guessed Everton's last two results. We'd have never guessed it. So we don't know how it's going to swing again. However, Leeds being in the bottom three doesn't surprise me. I said this yesterday. I'll say it again. I said this a year ago. In that Leeds would not be able to maintain the intensity of football that they showed in their first season in the Premier League. Why? Because they showed that same intensity in the Championship for 2 seasons back to back before they got to the Premiership. That's 3 years in a row that they've maintained in like an incredible amount of intensity in their football play. The pressing, the non-stop running. That has an impact on players. It didn't surprise me that Leeds players had so many injuries this season, because when you maintain that level of intensity for that long, your body starts to break down. Bamford, Cooper, all the rest of all the players, Phillips, they've all broken down. They've all had bad injuries. Why? because their bodies couldn't maintain that level of intensity. It never works. You look at Liverpool last season. Liverpool, after 3 incredible seasons of maintaining amazing intensity, had a massive drop-off and only just made Champions League football. Why? Because it's not sustainable. They've hit the heights and they've come back stronger this season. Yeah. But they were never going to be able to maintain it. That Bielsa football is made for 2 years, 3 years maximum. And that's why, if you look at Bielsa's career, he only stays at a club maximum 3 years. He's been at Leeds longer. It was never going to last any longer than that. And I just think to myself, I'm not against Leeds being in the bottom 3. Why? Because I look at their squad of players and they're not very good. They're a championship side, apart from the players that we've mentioned that are standout players. Other than that, they are players that are built for a system, not necessarily for the Premier League. They're not Premier League players. They're just built to play a certain way. And they've been exposed this season. But boy, if they go down, I'll be honest with you, I would be splashing a huge chunk of our budget on Raphinha. I really would. And I think
the only reason I didn't mention first choice, Pete, is I think 5 or 6 clubs will be after him straight away. Yeah. That's the only reason why I didn't bring him in the conversation.
Pete, just to throw another name in the mix.
I think we could get him. Sorry.
No, I do. I was going to say, just to throw another name in the mix, and I haven't had a chance to speak to you about this, but I watched Away Days, with the Man City fan, and I must admit my ears pricked up as soon as he said you were talking about possible outgoings on loaded for Man City, and he said Riyad Mahrez.
Yeah.
And then like yesterday, didn't start, and I thought, I think he's 31 now, but we saw the goal he scored against Real Madrid, and you just think, imagine having a player like Riyad Mahrez. Like he's up there. Well, he's probably even above Raphinha for me. Like he's that good. And if you think we had him for say 2, maybe 3 seasons, imagine what Riyad Mahrez is doing this team.
Yeah. Oh, Riyad
Levels.
Riyad Mahrez is a supremely talented player for me. I loved him at Leicester City. And he's actually, I don't think many people thought he could get better, but he's got better at Man City.
He's got better.
He's got even better. More controlled in his game, makes the right decisions a lot more often. Technically, just supreme. A very, very good player. He's a better version of Ben Arthur. He's a Ben Arthur with the whole package. And if we could get him, that would be an unbelievable deal. He also mentioned about the possibility of Sterling leaving as well.
Yeah, he said that was more likely, didn't he?
Yeah, he thought out of all of it, the attacking players, the one that was likely to leave in the summer was Sterling. Now Sterling's going to have massive suitors. A player like that to revamp this team, we'd have to break the bank for him, and whether we'd be able to do that as a squad, I don't know. We're just talking about possibilities. We're not saying this is going to happen, but we're looking at players. But for me, realistically, if Leeds go down, if I was the Newcastle owners, I would be going in with an early bid and saying, look, Raphinha, we want him. Here's 50 million as an upfront offer with a view to paying 65 million in add-ons. Let's get this deal done. He's a Brazilian lad. Bruno knows him well because he plays with him in the Brazilian squad. And I think with the likes of potentially someone like Paqueta coming into the squad, I would pay a lot of our budget in getting him. The reason being is because I think he just transforms our attacking emphasis. He is an elite player. He's a European Champions League player, and there are not many of them out. And I think we could get him for a good deal, because I think in a season or two's time he could be worth a lot more than that.
So
that's my opinion.
So it begs a question, lads, and I'll leave it to people in the chat, is what future has Elliot Anderson got in, lads? If we're constantly talking about getting better players, which we want in midfield, especially in midfield, what future Elliot Anderson, and when do you give him a chance at Newcastle? Or do you ever give him a chance? Because Woodman, that we're keeper that we've already mentioned at all now, he was raved for years, and he went to Swansea, played great for Swansea for 2 years, comes back, he has a run of games, and then everybody you know, like majority of people think, is he good enough? And we've put him on loan to Bournemouth, and he's never been seen again. So, and he's in his early 20s now. So it'll be interesting to see another difficult decision Eddie Howe's got to make, because yes, he's tore up in the second division. Will he be probably put on loan again to see if he can make it in the championship level, lads? Or do you think it's just wait and see what happens? Because we're always going to be thinking about getting players like Raphinha and Bequeta. What chance of Elliot Anderson actually breaking into the team if that's the case? It's going to be a difficult situation going forward, lads, if he's keep tearing it up the way he is.
Yeah,
and Matty Longstaff in a way, because he's been the silent one. He's scored a few goals and he's been even quieter. Noticed that he's done well for Mansfield.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, like, I think we've all seen, well, that most people have seen on Twitter, you know, the way the Bristol Rovers fans have been talking about Elliot Anderson, saying how fantastic he's been. Obviously, he got 2 assists and a goal at the weekend, and secured automatic promotion for Bristol Rovers. And, like, you don't get called the Geordie Maradona for nothing, do you? And they absolutely adore him. I've seen a video with them all chanting his name, singing his name, and yeah, I take into account it's League Two. Obviously, you know, you have to factor that in. But it's nice to have an exciting prospect on the books, and I'm hoping that, you know, maybe we loan him out till January and maybe just see how he goes, and then if he continues to do well, whether that be in League One, the Championship, we then maybe look to bring him back into the fold in January and just go, do you know what, go and show us what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Be interesting to know, lads. Really will. But I'll let you go, lads. Get your teas and everything, your questions asked. I know you're always, and Tony will be waiting in the wings, I dare say, in the background. So I've got to jump on him this week. But just to say all my condolences to Stephen. I'm thinking of him a sad time. We've all been through it at some time, lads, and it's one part of life that we never want to hear go through, but it is part of life, and I wish him all the best in this sad time. Take care, lads. Hopefully Monday, Pete, we're right. I still think there's a twist with that top 4, and I think we can turn Arsenal over.
Yeah, we might have not had a say in the title race, but I think we can still have a say in the top 4. That's for sure.
And relegation, I hope.
Yeah, very true. Very
Under
true.
10s, if I need them points.
Playing in the 23s in the last game.
I don't think so now, lads. I think everything is safe. Tell Ricky in the chat he's okay as Everton's fan. But never mind. The household, Chris, your household will be very much calmer now, I think.
Oh yeah, everyone's really happy. But as we know, Alan, you know, as we discussed, it's definitely not over. There's only a point. But I think we do feel a lot more confident now, because it looks like the emphasis is with them rather than Leeds.
Yeah, definitely. Take care, lads. Thank you.
All the best, Alan.
Thanks for your time. Mate.
See you later. Ta-ra, mate.
Legend. Love talking to Alan. He's such a great guy. Great guy. Fantastic points as well being raised. Yeah, really good points. He touched on Elliot Anderson there, and I don't know what your thoughts on Elliot Anderson is moving forward, Chris, but I think it's a really good question that he's brought to the table.
Mate, do you know what? I think he needs another season, or at least half a season out on loan. And I know some people disagree with me on this, but I would love him to go back to Bristol Rovers next season in League One. I really would. He's absolutely adored by the fans. He's going to be up into the next stage anyway. I think sometimes people can be quick to go, oh, let's test him in the Championship. And I can see why. Don't get me wrong. I can see why. But then on the other hand, when it's going so well for him at Bristol Rovers, he's getting regular game time. He's loved by everyone. I just think, let's just give him another. He's stepping up into League One. It's going to be difficult for him. I'd just like to see him, be given at least till January. And if it's not working out for him, or it's not panning out, or whatever, we can always bring him back, have a look at him, or send him on loan to a Championship club if he's absolutely tearing it up. But I just think for the lad's development, let's just keep him playing week in, week out. What if he goes to a Swansea or a Reading or a club like that, and then he ends up sitting on the bench, and then we're all going, should have stayed at Bristol Rovers? I just think, let him stay there, let him enjoy it. They've all worked hard together as a team, to get where they've got to. Let them go and enjoy. Let them go and enjoy the promotion. That's the way I see it, because I do think Premier League's probably a step too soon, because we are talking about League Two here. Let's not forget. And I just worry about him going into another club, and let's say the manager doesn't fancy him, or let's say he doesn't bed into the area very well. While it's fitting nicely, just give him the opportunity. It's not as if they've just stayed up and, it's like, oh, he's another season in League Two. They've just been promoted, and he's got a manager there who absolutely adores him, and in Joey Barton. And I just think, just let him develop. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I can see, like I say, for that continuity, that consistency, he's already been a part of the club, so it would be easy to kind of fit him in and let him continue under Joe Barton, who absolutely adores him, like you just said. The only thing is that obviously they're coming into a higher league, in a league where they're less likely to get the type of joy that they did in League Two. So it's going to be testing him a lot more. And there might be a lot of games next season where they're under the cosh and might not have the same attacking emphasis that they had in League Two. And that might be detrimental to him. That's my only thought.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Being, it's like, we talk about players at Newcastle, for example, the likes of Callum Wilson being held back slightly because he's playing in a team where he's having to chase back and defend for 90 minutes, not being up front in the box where you're getting on the end of balls and scoring goals. It's kind of like that. In that situation, it's a little bit like chalk and cheese. When you go up into a new division, you're going up not being one of the top teams pushing the top end of the division. You're at the bottom end and you're like scrapping for survival. It might bring some other traits out in him, that battling quality and being able to play a different side of the game. But equally to that, I think moving him up to the Championship, to a team at the top end of the Championship, or middle to top end of the Championship, maybe would be the next phase for him, because I think he would have already been in the Championship back end of this season if that deal had gone through. So he was meant to go to Luton Town. He was meant, that move in January, he was meant to go to Luton Town. For whatever reason, it didn't go through. Now, you look at Luton Town in the playoffs, you think of the development Elliot Anderson maybe would have had he been playing in the same way at Luton in the Championship. You think about the development he would have had being in the playoffs in the Championship, the potential to take Luton into the Premier League, how much of a development that would have given him on top of the experience he's had in Bristol Rovers. And the one thing that Eddie Howe has said and he's maintained that he wants his development to be as quick as possible, because I think Eddie Howe sees a massive future for Elliot Anderson. And for me personally, I think Elliot Anderson will get a pre-season with us. I think.
Oh, I do. I agree.
It's been talked about. It's been talked about for a while, but it's looking like it's being finalised soon that our pre-season is going to be in America. They're going to be touring America. Where in America, we don't know, but it's looking like the pre-season tour is going to be in America. I think he goes with the team, and I think he gets a significant chunk of that pre-season with Newcastle under Eddie Howe to build his fitness, to have a look at him properly. He's going to get minutes, he'll play. And I think Eddie Howe will have a look at him. If he has a good pre-season, I wouldn't put it past Newcastle keeping him. And that's my personal opinion. For me, I think Matty Longstaff will go on loan again. I think he might even get pre-season, but I think he'll go on loan. I don't think he's going to be part of our squad. I think Elliot Anderson will get a pre-season, because I think Elliot Anderson will be looked at in one of those two midfield spots where Bruno and Joelinton have been playing and Willock. I think Elliot Anderson, if he's going to fit into this team, it's not out on the wings. I think he gets positioned in that higher up midfield, box to box too. And I think that's where Elliot Anderson plays, because he is traditionally a number 10, but we don't play with a number 10. So I think that's where he'll play, and he'll play in that position, a bit like Joe Willock. Joe Willock is a number 10, but he plays in that position because it allows him to get forward. And I think to get a pre-season in one of those two positions to see whether his development's going in the right direction or it's developed faster than Eddie Howe thought. But equally, Eddie Howe will want to see whether he can play in Newcastle's current system.
Yeah, and whether he can follow instruction.
Yeah. And if he can see that, and if he can see that development, and if he can see that he's made that step up, I wouldn't put it past Eddie Howe keeping him next season.
Yeah. No, I think it's a valid point, mate. And again, it would bring into question the whole Sean Longstaff issue, wouldn't it? Because then you'd be questioning, well, if that's the case, then do you need Sean Longstaff and Elliot Anderson sitting underneath, the first choice midfielders, if you like, or do you think, you know what, I'll stick with Elliot Anderson, I'll let Sean go because he'll be on considerably lower wages.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's an intriguing situation to keep an eye on. Lots of moving parts. We're looking at all new players coming in, but equally, you've got players like Elliot Anderson that could come in and be a squad member and be a part of this team next season. And we just don't know how it's going to go. But it's really good to see that we've actually got a player coming into the academy that looks like they've got a really bright future that the manager really seems to like.
Yeah.
And it's great to see. It really is.
Absolutely.
Right, our final guest of the evening. Let's get him in. Before we move on, welcome in Tony. How you doing, Tony?
Good evening,
Hi,
lads.
Tony.
All right.
You, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Before I start, just want to send my condolences to Steve and his family. My thoughts are with them now at this time. I know what it's like to lose your mum and dad. I've lost my mum and dad. So I know what it's like, and my condolences with Steve.
Definitely, appreciate that.
Yeah, well said, mate.
Yesterday's game, well, I did say last week, as much as I hate to say the word, I don't like to be a defeatist, but I did say last week, I think we'll lose. Now, if we'd only lost 3-0, I would have took that hit straight away. To lose 5 is demoralising, to say the least. Dubravka, yeah, he could have probably done better when he spilled that shot. But Man City are just a cut above, and it showed us where we are as a team, and that's nowhere near Man City or Liverpool. But we do need a bit of a clear out in the summer. I've heard there's rumours of Forest wanting the cells back, apparently. Well, that's true or not, I don't know. If that is true, I'll help pay for his taxi fee to get him back there. But yeah, if that's the case, then yeah, fair enough. But we do need a bit of a clear out. We do need to bring some players in. I mean, Elliot Anderson Saturday, he's done really well. 2 assists and a goal. Can't go wrong with that. I know it's League 2, and I agree with you, Chris. I thought myself today, I would send him back to Bristol Rovers on loan. Go back to Joey Barton. Joey's an ex-Toon legend in a way. So he'll have told Elliot Anderson how to grab your chance at Newcastle. Plus, he's had the training with Joey Barton this half the season. So send him back there and see what he can do in League 1, because that's a step up from League 2. And gradually, when you look at, say, Harry Kane, he didn't start off at Spurs straight away. He went to different clubs. He went down the leagues as well, didn't he? So, so it's not a bad thing to send a player out on loan who's going to be up and coming. Just got to give him that chance and let him go at a lower level and see how he does. And if he starts ripping it up in League 1, you think, hang on a minute, yeah, we have got a player here. And I do rate Elliot Anderson quite highly.
Do you think he's got a future next season, or do you think he'll go on loan again?
I would send him back on loan. And like Chris says, maybe till January. See how it goes till January. And if by January you think, do you know what? We want him back here. And then when you get him back to the Premier League, you can bring him on for 20 minutes here or half an hour there and gradually ease him in, and see if he can get up to the pace of the football. Like Eddie did with Bruno. Everybody was clamouring for Bruno to start from the very first game against Everton. but took quite a few games before Eddie Howe put him in the team from the start. And that's the one good thing about Eddie Howe. He knows how to manage players well. And we've seen the rewards we've had with Bruno, with waiting and keeping them back. Patience is a virtue at the end of the day. And, Eddie Howe's been proved right again.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to agree. But look,
I mean, I've wrote some players down like this. I mean, I know I've got quite a lot on my lists, but the thing is, though, the way I look at it is, I'm not saying we're going to get all these players or, maybe half of them. Now, yes, we're going to have some money to spend, but the thing is, though, people keep saying, oh, well, how are you going to get a top player at Newcastle when you might want to go to Man United? Why wouldn't you want to come to Newcastle? Why would you want to go to Man United? No disrespect to them. They are an awful club to play for at the minute. Even Bruno Fernandes was getting chanted at on Saturday, you're not fit to wear the shirt, because he acknowledged that in his interview.
He's just signed a new 5-year deal.
Yeah.
No.
But no, I mean, at the end of the day, why can't we tackle Man U? Because the thing is, though, you look at this Man U team at the moment and that club, it's an absolute shambles of a club. And that manager going in there, Ten Hag, he's an up-and-coming manager. Now, if he goes in there and he doesn't get a grip of that place, then his credibility is going to drop massively.
Yeah, that's right.
And people are going to say, well, he's no top manager now, is he? He's not that good.
He's definitely taken a risk, because I was talking to someone today about this actually, and saying, you look at it and he's a manager, Ten Hag, in the Dutch league with Ajax, and Ajax are like, the Man City or the Liverpool of the Premier League, if you like. But the difference being is that a lot of the teams in the Dutch league are nowhere near the standard of Ajax, whereas he's coming into a Premier League where Man United, I think it's fair to say, are probably about the 6th or 7th best team in the league at the moment. And every week is it's a hard game. Even if you're playing bottom of the league, it's not an easy game where you go, oh, we'll definitely win this. We'll turn up and we'll win. We saw what Norwich did to Man United. Did Man United win 3-2? Yeah. I think Norwich pulled 2 goals back against them, and that's with Cristiano Ronaldo in the team. So he's taken. Well, I wonder whether he's taken on more than he can chew, if I'm honest. But I was a little bit surprised that he was deemed as, the person to kind of change the fortunes for Man United. And hey, it might come and bite me on the bum, that comment. But if I was Man United, I would have been going for someone who's, a bit more proven in Europe. I don't necessarily think Ten Hag is, the be all and end all. I thought they'd go out, for like a proven manager in different leagues, or has done it consistently in a top league. Whereas I'm sorry, the Dutch league is not a top league. And there's not regular competition week in, week out. He hasn't got to manage as well all of these personalities. Players at Ajax know, they're at the best club in the Dutch league.
Yeah.
These players at Man United all believe that they're probably, up here, but the performances aren't displaying that. So there's a lot of personalities he's going to have to try and deal with when he comes in. And will these Man United players respect him for what he's done at Man United? I mean, look at Raphinha when they got him, regarded as one of the best coaches in world football, and he hasn't done anything with Man United. If anything, some would argue he's made them worse.
Yeah, I mean,
I was going to say Ten Hag is maybe a little bit more commanding as a manager. He's a bit more of a commanding. He demands a certain level. Whether he can manage those top stars, as you said, Chris, that's the big question.
That's the question.
That's the big question. Now, Man United have gone for Ten Hag for the clear reason that if you look at Man United as a team, tactically they are inept. They have got no idea. They've got no idea. They've got look. People may argue this, but they've got one of the best centre backs in world football in Raphinha. They've also got a very talented centre back in Harry Maguire. I rate him. I think he's having a really bad moment at the moment. I think he's not being tactically looked after. You look at what he did at Leicester under a very tactical manager in Brendan Rodgers, and then he's come to Man United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who doesn't know how to run tactics at all. It's like having Steve Bruce. effectively, who doesn't do tactics. And any player in a non-tactical system or a system that's not being tactically put together is not gonna work. Ten Hag will come in and he will create a system in order to make players like that work together and become more of a unit. Rafa Varane, in particular, in isolation, put Harry Maguire to the side for now. Rafa Varane is a top-level centre-back. He's a World Cup winner. He's a serial Champions League winner. He's a serial, winner in major trophies. He's not looked half the player this season. That's down to tactical awareness and a lack of tactical kind of nous from the manager and the club. He will get better. You've then got other players like, Bruno Fernandes in a tactical system will become a top player. There's no doubt about it. You've got Jadon Sancho, who's still one of the best young players in Europe right now. There's no doubt about it. He's showed his quality in recent games. Yes, he's injured, but he's showed recently glimpses of his ability. In a tactical system, he will start playing again. Cristiano Ronaldo in a tactical system will get more goals than he even got this season. Ten Hag will create a tactical system that will make Man United better. Man United will be better next season than they were this season. There's no doubt about it. It's just a case of who they're going to ship out and who they're going to bring in. Mata, Matic, Pogba, all those players, Lingard, they've needed to get rid of them for years. It's probably the best thing they're doing, get rid of those players. Yeah. But the one thing they've got to worry about is that they haven't got time on their hands because Newcastle United are coming. And if they don't make the progress quick enough, we will overtake them. I've got no doubt about it. So they've got pressure on them. Pressure that I think they realise they've got pressure on them because they know that Newcastle are coming. They've got West Ham that are up there. They've got Wolves that are chomping at the bit. They've got Leicester that have had a good season that could quite easily bounce back. They've got Newcastle that are now coming. This is no longer a top 6 race anymore. It's a top 8, potentially top 9 race that Man United could quite easily lose. If we're consistent next season under Eddie Howe and we sign the right players, there's no reason why we can't finish above them. If West Ham recruit... If West Ham recruit well, there's no reason why we couldn't finish above them. That's putting them in, 8th position? That could be Man United next season if they don't get it right. So they've got massive pressure on them. Massive pressure. Yeah. Arsenal have got pressure if they get Champions League football to build their squad to be able to withstand Champions League football and Premier League football next season because their squad's not big enough. Tottenham, if they get Champions League football or European football, which... they didn't play this season because they got knocked out quite early. Have they got a squad to withstand that? So they've got to manage the Thursday, Sunday again. We know historically teams don't deal well with that. Newcastle United, we don't have to play anything other than Premier League football. We could benefit from that if we sign the right players. We're in a really good position.
The thing is, Pete, they could end up in 7th place, which is a Conference League place, isn't it? The Europa Conference League. Because West Ham could finish in the Europa League spot. Yeah. And I wouldn't back against West Ham doing that, to be honest. Because Brighton must be disappointed on Saturday because they could have won 6 or 7-0 against Man United. They played Man United off the park.
Yeah, no, very
They ripped Man U a new backside, basically. Yeah. They are a shambles. But yeah. But no, I've got players here which I think, some probably are doable, some maybe not. But, we can only live in hope, can't we? As,
Yeah.
Because, you see, wherever we finish, even if we finished maybe 12th, or if we finish in the top 10, like, say, 10th place or whatever, it's been a hell of a season considering where we were after 14 games when we couldn't buy a win. And these next 2 games are winnable, no doubt about it. But if we were going to get free transfers in, I've got 3 players here on free transfers, which would not only enhance our squad, but also have strength and depth as well. So my first one is Boubacar Kamara. Not only can he play as a defensive midfielder, but he can play in central defence as well.
Good player.
James Tarkowski as a backup.
Yeah.
Not a bad player to have as a backup centre half if somebody's injured. And Jesse Lingard as well.
Yeah.
Now there's 3 players we could get in on frees, which doesn't really affect the FFP so much. And we're not paying a transfer fee for them. And, you know, improve our squad in the areas we need improving in. You know, I don't know what your thoughts on them 3 are, but, you know, I think they're quite a good shout, if I'm honest.
I like all 3. I think Tarkowski's an upgrade on the likes of Kevin Clark, Fede Fernandez. Even though I love Fede Fernandez, I do think James Tarkowski does improve the squad. I think Jesse Lingard, again, improves what we've got at the moment, especially if you're talking of the likes of Jacob Murphy and Matt Ritchie leaving. I think he's a massive upgrade on those 2 players, just off the top of my head. And your other one was Boubacar Kamara. Yeah, so Boubacar Kamara, he's probably the best of the 3. I know a lot of clubs are looking at him, but he would be a really, really good player to bring in. I don't know how he's still at Marseille, isn't he? I don't know what kind of season he's had for Marseille, but I think Lee's Pete's brother Lee will probably be able to tell us more on the Fully Loaded Transfer Show. But I know he was highly respected.
They're second in the league. They're playing well. I think. No, actually, I don't know if they won at the weekend, but Monaco won, so they went second. So it put Marseille in the qualifiers for the Champions League in 3rd position. But I think they're looking at shoring up 2nd position. So they'll be playing Champions League football next season off the back of that. So I mean,
they've been second, Pete.
Him and so they must have won at the weekend. Him and Guendouzi have formed a really good partnership together. Guendouzi is a player I like a lot. I think he's a terrific player. He's had a really good season. The only thing about Boubacar Kamara is that quite rightly, he's attracting interest from a lot of big teams. So, for example, AC Milan are the latest team to be talking to Boubacar Kamara, and the reason being is because obviously they're going to lose Frank Kessie, who's looking like he's going to go to Barcelona on a free transfer. So they need that defensive midfield replacement. And Boubacar Kamara is the perfect replacement for that. Not saying he's going to go to AC Milan, but again, he's been linked with a lot of those top clubs. So it may take a significant amount of money to be able to prize him away and bring him to Newcastle. But he's a top player. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Goalkeepers. Obviously, I would say Dean Henderson would probably be the most doable to get in. And I know I've spoke previously, and I know you said to this other keeper that obviously he's the next level above. But what's to say he's 29, he might fancy a change, and he may think, you know what, I want to go to the project. And that's Jan Oblak, as I've said before.
Yeah.
Who knows, you know. And the other one, which I've got a question mark against, but I mean, I've seen a lot of people mention him, is Nick Pope. But if I was to get any out of them 3, I would rather go for Henderson, if I'm honest, because he's younger.
Yeah, and he's probably the most realistic. He's the best of the most realistic ones, I'd say.
Yeah. That's what I would think on that anyway. Now I've got quite a few here for defence as well, because obviously we'll need to upgrade our defence as well. Obviously, my number 1, and I think Pete's on the same wavelength as what I am, is Sven Botman. He's already said he's leaving Lille at the end of the season. So I would have him in. If we can get him, that would be a great signing, I think. And because we get a long time out of him as well, he's only 22. So he's got lots of years ahead of him to develop even more.
It'd be great to get him in. He had a fallout the other weekend with the Lille fans after they lost. I think it was, I'm not sure if it was this weekend actually. He had a bit of a fallout with the Lille fans who were booing the players because they lost, and they're obviously 10th in Liga at the moment. They've had a dreadful season. Sven Botman's been injured for a number of weeks, to be fair, so he's missed quite a few games in which they've not performed very well. But last weekend I think was his first game back, and they lost again. So yeah, it's one of those situations that I think we talked about in the Fully Loaded Transfer Show, is that Sven Botman was mentally ready to leave the club and join Newcastle United. There's no doubt about it. And when that happens, your head is not mentally in the game. So he stayed for the Champions League because they were playing against Chelsea. They were playing the last stage of the Champions League, which was fine. But once they got knocked out by Chelsea, his mind's gone. Like he's already at the club. And Lille are kind of, they're paying the price for not selling him now. They could have sold him and brought in another centre back that would have maybe ushered them up the table, and we could have moved on with Botman. And Roger's put a question in. He's gone. Unfortunately, he's probably going to Milan, and maybe he is, and that's absolutely fine. Well, it's not fine, but it's the agreement of the two owners that have got a good relationship there in AC Milan, and that's fine. But equally, Sven Botman's not the only centre back out there, not the only left-sided centre back out there. So there are other players that we can look at. So it's not the end of the road for us if we don't get Botman. And like Derek said, it's not a dead cert that he's going to AC Milan. Money talks at the end of the day. If we come in with a big offer, and I think we will at some point at the end of the season, if we come in for a big offer that blows AC Milan out the water financially, not just for Lille, but for Botman. But who's to say that Botman doesn't force the deal through and says, "No, I want to come to Newcastle United. I want to be a part of that project. I want to go to them," and forces their hand. Who's to say that they then don't accept Newcastle's deal? But equally, AC Milan will be playing Champions League football next season, so it'll allow him to play on the biggest stage. So I wouldn't begrudge him going to AC Milan because he's playing Champions League football. The only thing I'll say is that the future of both of those clubs, for me, it's brighter going to Newcastle because Newcastle are going one way, not just playing Premier League football, but potentially playing Premier League, European, and then Champions League football, and the kind of the opportunity of fighting for titles at a Premier League club is always bigger and greater than fighting for titles in Serie A, in my opinion.
And let's not forget that statement that Sven Botman came out with, and he spoke fiercely about Newcastle and then said, "Oh, and the AC Milan project's good as well." So not ruling them out, but his first priority was to talk about Newcastle.
Of course.
So that's how I took it.
I mean, also I've got obviously Matt Target on there because it's a no-brainer to say Matt Target, and I know we've been linked to this running Lodi, who plays for Atletico Madrid. Yeah. Because some news reports have said Eddie Howe wants a more attacking left back, where he sees Target as more of a defensive. But I think Matty Target's been absolutely brilliant, and if we can get him for 15 million or whatever the fee is, that's a snip.
Yeah.
I
think it's pace. Lodi has got a lot more pace, and I think in the last couple of games against quite rightly elite teams in Liverpool and Man City, he's been exposed of having a bit of a lack of pace against top players, against the likes of Salah, against the likes of Cancelo and Sterling. He's been exposed a little bit, whereas Lodi has a little bit more pace. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Matt Target's had a bad spell. I think he's had a very, very good spell at Newcastle. But yeah, in the last couple of games, it's kind of exposed him a little bit. And he's not had the best of games. I don't think he played well at all against Man City yesterday. But you could argue that a lot of the players didn't. So I'm not going to hold that against him at all.
No.
But yeah, 15 million potentially.
Yeah.
Do I get the deal done? Definitely. If you're going to get Lodi in, it's going to be interesting. Does Matt Target want to be a bit part player again as a new signing to the club if you're signing two left backs? I think Lodi's maybe an alternative that if Aston Villa start outpricing Target, they'll look at other options. That's
do you know what, Pete? That's exactly right. And I was just going to jump in and say that I think Newcastle will go in probably in the summer, and they will probably say, "Listen, here's 15 million or here's 12 million. That's what we're going to pay for Matt Target." If Villa start going, "Oh, 118 or we want 20, I think we move on. And that's not to say I don't want us to sign Matt Target, and I'm not going to be disappointed if we do. But I think again, it will always come down to money. Bill, I know you're going to kill me for keep talking about money, but I do think we're out there to get the best value for money that we can. And I think in Matty Target's position, like, you know, if Villa go 25 million, I don't think we'll go, oh yeah, here's the money. I think it'll be no. That's not what his value, his true value is. We can get better elsewhere, and I think that's what will happen. But that's not to say I'd be disappointed with signing him, because I think he has been great, and you know, I'd be more than happy with Matty Target.
Yeah, I know we've got like Emil Crafter, which people are saying like you're going to be cover for Trippier, but another player that I was thinking maybe cover for Trippier, and he's only 21, so he's got time to improve. He's currently on loan at the moment from Middlesbrough Forest, Jed Spence.
I knew you were going to say him. If we're going to get rid of Kraft Manquillo, he's the one player that I want to sign. He is a tremendous talent, tremendous player, very, very good right back.
Yeah,
very good.
And he'd be the ideal backup to Trippier.
Yeah, definitely. He's the kind of young, progressive right back player that I'd be wanting to sign. He's had a great season at Forest. For me, he's already Premier League ready. He can play in the Premier League for me.
Yeah.
Tony, absolutely spot on. He's a great sign.
Yeah.
My only concern with that is, and it's not a concern, but I think Eddie Howe looks at this squad and thinks, you know, we can't, someone wrote in the chat, and it was a good comment, you know, we can't change like 80% of the squad. And I think Eddie Howe looks at the right back berth and says, do we need a new right back? No. Can we get by for the next 12, 18 months with what we've got? Yes. And I think Kieran Trippier starts week in, week out. And my only concern about bringing someone like Jed Spence in is that it could hold him back in terms of he's not going to play regular football. He's definitely, by the sounds of it, I haven't seen much of him, I've got to be honest, but by the sounds of it, he looks like, you know, the up and coming right back in the country. I think Max Aarons at Norwich was previously that person, but I just think he will look at other positions to strengthen. I don't think he lets Kraft and Manquillo go and bring him in. Could be wrong. Again, you know, this is what we were talking about earlier, Pete, with the surprises. We don't know what's in his thoughts. But for me, looking at that squad, right back isn't a problem for me, because you've got Kieran Trippier there. And as long as you've got an adequate understudy, should Kieran Trippier be out, I think he'll just stick with that.
Roger puts on there, why did Borough loan him out? It's because Borough is stupid. Borough is stupid. That's the simple answer. They've loaned him out.
To be honest, Pete, I work with a guy who's a Nottingham Forest fan, believe it or not. And he says the reason Jed Spence went to Forest was he fell out with Warnock.
Well, okay.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
that's why he went to Forest.
But yeah, he's gone to Forest, and Forest have outplayed Borough. They're in the playoffs, and you know, could be playing Premier League football next season. And you know what? I kind of hope they do. I hope they do it. Either them or Luton. I'd really like one of those two teams to play Premier League football next season. It'd be nice to have a different team in the Premier League, and maybe it kind of halts his move elsewhere, because he might get another move to Forest to play in the Premier League if they get promoted, and then you could really have a look at him, and it gives us another year then to look at him a little bit more deeper, and maybe then look to sign him when Trippier is 34. Might be a great natural replacement at that point. Who knows? But look,
midfield.
Last point then, Tony.
Yeah. So quickly, my midfield. I've got some players there like Calvin Phillips, Paqueta, Raphinha, and maybe Ward-Prowse, but maybe not with Ward-Prowse, but definitely the other three. You know, enough front
top players.
Yeah. And I mean, if it's true what you were saying last night, Pete, I think you said on Loaded that if Leeds go down, they can sell him for 25 million. That's a snip. Allegedly. And I know they're saying, he may go to Man United. But I'm not being funny. If we go in for Phillips, he may think, do you know what? I'd rather go to Newcastle than Man United.
Obviously, there's the dislike there between Leeds and Man United. Alan Smith's made the move previously. Eric Cantona's made that move in years gone by. But yeah, if there's another better offer out there, maybe he would consider coming to us. Phillips, I mean. But yeah, I think it's an intriguing one. for him and Raphinha. I think there's an opportunity to get both of them if these go down. I really do.
I mean, I know we've been linked with other players up front, like of Darwin Núñez and Victor Osimhen. And, you know, I know Supermax said Lewandowski would be a good signing for a couple of years on a free. You know, he's 31, 32, but you just get that experience. You know, even Brennan Johnson from Forest, he's a hell of a player as well. He went, because I think the season before he was at Lincoln on loan in League One, and he ripped League One up for Lincoln, and then he went back to Forest, and he's done it in the Championship. So what's he can't step up to the Premier League? And you know, so he's another one that we could look at. And also this one might cause a bit of controversy because I've heard it mentioned from a few Newcastle fans.
I know what you're going to say.
But what you've got to remember is Eddie Howe can get a tune out of players. Look what he's done to Joelinton.
Put it in the chat.
The player I'm going to mention is Marcus Rashford.
Oh, okay.
Now, I know he hasn't had the best of times at Man United lately, but if Eddie Howe can get any player back to where he should be, that's Marcus Rashford. And I'll tell you what, even if it costs 63 million, who cares? He is a quality player on his day. And, you know, he's a goal scorer as well. And the way Eddie Howe likes to play football would suit Marcus Rashford down to the ground.
He's going to need to be coached, and he'd need to play as a frontline striker. But I don't know. I'm not sure about Marcus Rashford. I think we spoke a few weeks ago, and I was a bit like, yeah, I think maybe if he's coached, we could do something. But I'm not.
I know this has surprised me, Pete. I was thinking you were all on board with Rashford's, but I do take your point. That, like,
Bill's spot on again. Bill's made some great points tonight.
Yeah.
And he's spot on again. He's had a terrible season.
Yes,
you know, since I made that comment about him, and I made that comment because I thought if he's coached by Eddie Howe, maybe we can get a tune out of him and we can get him playing better football. But I just, having watched him since, it sounds horrible, but he looks finished.
Yeah.
He looks like a Dele Alli.
Yeah, he does.
He really does. Like,
he does.
He looks like his mind's just not in football anymore. And I don't know if there's stuff outside of football that's affecting him. I don't know what it could be, but he does not look the same player that he looked a couple of years ago, and that's a massive worry. And he's only 24 years old. That's
goes back
worrying.
to the whole peak thing. Pete goes back to the whole peak thing. Is he on 200 grand a week? Is he going home? He's writing his letters to the Prime Minister. I'm not knocking him for that, by the way. I think it's a fantastic thing that he's done.
I don't think it's about politics. It's not even about that.
But do you think he's just distracted though, Pete? Like, as in he's just fell out of love with football, or is just like, do you know what? Looking at the bigger picture, is this the be all and end all? Am I that bothered?
Yeah, you go back and watch. Not that you want to, but you go back and watch Man United games from over a year ago. His body language was exactly the same as it is now. His body language looks like he cannot be bothered. And the back end of last season, watching Man United play, his body language looked like he didn't care about football. He wasn't bothered about tracking back. He wasn't bothered about going out and putting maximum 100% effort in. He just didn't look bothered. And he still doesn't now. That's a big worry. If his mentality is not there in terms of being bothered about playing professional football at Premier League level, that's a big concern for me. A massive concern. Yeah. And when your mindset is like that, it's very hard to get back. In my opinion.
It is.
For me, I don't know whether we need to pay such a huge transfer fee for a player like that, where there's no guarantee that the player is going to make considerable improvements.
Pete, I'm sorry, I just couldn't stop laughing at that comment. That's why we bring him in to do wonders for the food bank. It's like, but that's kind of where we are with Rashford, though, isn't it? You're absolutely right in what you're saying. Absolutely right, Pete. It's like, you know, you're not seeing the same player from 18 months ago. The player that was, he'd stand out a mile, wouldn't he, on the pitch?
Yeah.
Just not seeing it. So no, full credit to you for doing a U-turn on it, Pete, because I know a couple of weeks back you were really keen, so I'm assuming you must have seen more of him recently. Yeah, I've watched him quite a bit, and I just look in this horrible Man United team at the moment, and you can't get a kick.
in that team. That is massive alarm bells. If you're playing a young kind of academy player like Alanga ahead of Marcus Rashford, who's played umpteen amount of English international games, played in big tournaments, played in European Champions League competitions, and that player's playing ahead of you, that says to me something's not right. It says to me something's clearly not right. The same with Lingard, the same with a number of others. Something's not right there. And that's a big concern. I don't think we need a player like that. No. I think we want to be bringing in a player that's ready to go, that's a goal-scoring machine, that can fit into the system nicely and hit the ground running. We don't want to be waiting 6 months to coach a player back to form again. We want a player that's ready to go. We've been in that position where we've took risks on players. I don't think we need to be taking a £60 million risk on Marcus Rashford. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, Pete. I agree with you, to be honest with you. Now that you've said all that, if we were to get one striker, I would love to see Núñez through the door without a doubt. I think he's an absolutely outstanding striker, and he's only going to get better. And he's only 22, 23, so he's only going to get better, isn't he? So, and he bangs the goals, and he'll be well loved up here, at Newcastle. So. Hopefully a lot of these players have seen the atmosphere, seen what Bruno's putting on his Twitter and everything, and how good the atmosphere is. Absolutely. And they've watched maybe televised games abroad as well, and they might be thinking, do you know what, I want to be part of that. I want some of that. I want to go out there and be treated like a hero and have me name sung on the terraces, and have flags waving for us coming out the changing rooms and onto the pitch and into that atmosphere. So yeah, there's no reason why we can't get the better players in. And one last point I'm going to quickly make is, if next week we decide to start with Trippier, I would try and play Saint-Maximin on the right with Trippier, because that way Trippier can give him instructions as well of what he wants out of him. Great and point. Him and Trippier could work actually well point. On the right. And I would try that for the last two games. And see what happens. And it
do we know if Fraser's out for the season?
Yeah.
Is he out for the season?
Like it, yeah.
Because it'd be great, wouldn't it? Like, Pete's mentioned it, you've said it, Tony. I hadn't factored in the Trippier connection, which I think, is a great point that you've just made. But we all saw the impact that Ryan Fraser had on the left wing. So if you had Saint-Maximin on the right and Ryan Fraser on the left, that would be interesting with Callum Wilson up top.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice to see Callum Wilson back yesterday. You could see the sharpness once he was back. And I know he had that shot and Edison saved it. But it was at least he had a better effort than what Wood did. Yeah. When Wood had that header and he didn't do anything with it, did he really? Just basically passed it back to the goalkeeper. But, if that had been Wilson, that might have been a different outcome. Yeah. And as Pete said, had maybe we started them two and give them 60, 65 minutes maybe, but even when they came on for that last 20, 23 minutes, half an hour, whatever it was, you could see the difference straight away. It lifted the team as well.
It did.
And yeah, I know Sky made a bit of it saying, oh, well, Trippier got left by Grealish, but don't forget, Trippier's been out for 12 weeks.
Mm.
Yeah. And he's just come back he's not match fit yet. So, and Grealish probably knew that as well. And that's how he got past him. But a match fit Trippier wouldn't have let Grealish past. Mm. So I don't blame Trippier at all for the goal.
No,
it's not his fault at the end of the day.
Bustiness. Yeah. Let's be honest. Exactly, it's not like it cost us, is it?
No, exactly. Yeah. So, and we are definitely safe because I know people are saying we're not mathematically safe. Yeah, we're not. But you look at that goal difference to Leeds, it's like nearly double of what we've got. That's an extra point in itself. So I think we're definitely safe. I've
got to.
They've got to win every game, haven't they?
Yeah, I've got to be honest, Tony. Like, if we went down now, if you put £1 on us to go down, you probably end up retiring from work. Like, I'm not being funny. There's no way we're going down. It's just I don't even think. I've said this before. I don't actually think it's mathematically possible for us to go down because everyone would have to win and we'd have to lose. And no, we're up. We're fine.
And Everton's got to play Crystal Palace as well when you think about it. So
Well, exactly. There you go. Yeah. So they can't both win, can they? Yeah.
No, exactly. You know, I'm just disappointed Everton staying up because I can't believe they got the two results where I thought they would absolutely get tortured off like Chelsea and off Leicester. You know, I thought they would have got slaughtered off them two, and they've won them games, and I'm so bloody annoyed. But
yeah,
I know.
I'm going to say now, Leeds are going down. I think Burnley will stay up, but I think Leeds will go down. I think Burnley might go to Aston Villa and turn that around and get either a draw or even a win there because they'll analyse what they've done at the weekend.
Yeah.
Because they've got Villa in such a short time, which I think is next Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think Burnley will stay up. And I think it'll be Leeds who go down. Second season syndrome's caught up with Leeds United, unfortunately. And they're not good enough.
No, I would agree with you. I think it's going to be interesting. There'll be some moving parts, but I think the way it's looking now, I think it's. I think Leeds could be having a drop, and I think we've touched on it before. It might not be the worst thing for us. It's certainly in the transfer market, but we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how it kind of transpires. But Tony, I'm going to say thank you for you coming on today. Absolutely spot on as always. Great points and great list of players as well in all different.
We'll
have to revisit that maybe in a number of weeks' time when we're in the transfer window and see how that kind of transpires. So
it's going to be exciting.
Maybe the striker thing, we could maybe throw Nketiah in there, couldn't we? Because he's got two yesterday. He's alert, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's on a free. There's no reason why we couldn't. But I think he's going to have a number of suitors. I think it'll be an interesting one. But look, we'll leave it there. Top man Tony, hopefully, if it's not next week, it'll be the week after. But hopefully, you can come back on and talk to us, and we'll be in a better position, hopefully, with a few more points.
Yeah, and come on, you Owls, come on, beat Sunderland, come on.
I know, half an hour to go.
Still 0-0 at the minute.
Yeah.
Still all there.
But come on, Sheffield Wednesday, you can do it.
Definitely. But you take care, mate. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, you too, Chris.
Take care, Tony. All the best.
How are the lads?
How are you, lads? Good lad. Top man. Cheers for that, Tony. Great to have you on. And great points as always. I'm going to try and be as absolutely quick as possible with this, with our NUFC Matters sponsors.
I thought you forgot, Pete. I was going to mention.
No, not forgotten. Just wanted to make sure we got for everything. So I'll try my absolute hardest to stick with this because we've still got some questions we're going to answer before we wrap up the show. So if anyone's clocking the time, keep an eye on it. So we have Spider Miner. So thank you to Spider Miner. Worldwide coverage from the lads. The only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different currencies at the same time, whilst using virtually no energy and the VPN protected. You can buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. We also have skipsandbins.com. So telephone 0800 2545 253. Emails inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay as you go waste collection. Massive thanks to Energy Family Funeral Directors. Contact them on 0191 389 7245. Also, Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialist, www.thegohd.com. They are the ones to contact. We have QTech shop.co.uk for all the pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. John Salin is always in the chat. He's the man to go to for all your pool table and snooker table needs. We also have the new sponsor. So we have Klikai. We've talked about them before. So meet the new game over screen. So get on to Klikai. Thanks to everyone at Klikai for your support find them at clearun.game, Google Play or Apple Store. Also, massive thanks to Neil at Media Arts for doing all of the media work for NUFC Matters. And we also have Newcastle Legends. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button. You can share the show with like-minded people on social media. You can comment in the chat, which so many have done already tonight, and click that like button. We also have iTunes and Spotify, where you can watch the show 24 hours after the show's gone live on either iTunes or Spotify, the best places to go after the show has aired. We've got a scan to buy NUFC Matters membership pack, so you can scan the screen right now and become a member and be a part of some fantastic things. In the membership pack, you got the cups, the scarves. You've got all the things as part of being a membership. There's some exciting news to talk about, but I'll get into that in a second. I'm trying to hold it in, but I'm trying to do this once at the same time. You can subscribe to the show and receive a free car window sticker for every FC Matters. Come and join Super Mac and you can go and join Super Mac, Holly, Steve, the Dog and Parrot, pre-match and post-match for music, drink, and pool. You can ask many questions to Super Mac. Super Mac loves to talk about his experiences at Newcastle, and I've been it's a pleasure to have been there and hear some of the talkings he's done pre-match. So definitely get involved with that. And of course, if you're not able to support the food bank on match days, we've got the virtual match day bucket that you can be a part of. So just go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and put your money in and support a fantastic cause. That is for sure. Right.
Well done, mate. Well done.
Yeah, managed to get through that and managed to kind of hold myself as I saw the ball ripple the back of the net at Sheffield Wednesday, and it is 1-0 to Sheffield Wednesday. 1-1 on obviously goals scored each, and it is all up for grabs. That is for sure. So hopefully Barry Bannon and co can do the biz and get that victory for Sheffield Wednesday. But we'll see. We'll see how it comes. Now, look, Chris, I know there's a number of questions in the chat. Yeah, I'm breathed. Thank you, Emmett. Absolute legend. Got through it. I think they've been narrowed down, so it was actually quite quick. So thank you to Steve for doing that. A lot better. Managed to get through it. But yeah, it looks like Sheffield Wednesday are in the ascendancy now. So fingers crossed we get some more pleasant news.
I love every week, Pete, the way there's I think it's always Keith who times it. Keith must be like that with the stopwatch as soon as you go. But yeah, 4 minutes 12. That's got to be near a record, that Pete. It's got to be.
Must be close. It's definitely. It's got to be my PB. It's got to be my PB.
PB. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But yeah, great to have everyone on the chat tonight. Those that have come in and joined us to talk live, absolutely spot on. Those regular boys are a real pleasure. And look, I'll say it now. You know, anyone else in the chat you want to come in and get involved and have a say. We have Jimmy that normally comes in, Jeff, who I know has not been well. Great to see him back up on things and involved again. And we have a number of other regulars. Some of the Geordies down south boys join us sometimes. Feel free to come and join us. Yeah, pop on, have a chat, and get involved. That's for sure. So yeah, everyone's welcome on the fans forum. This is what it's about. It's about us, just all of us in the chat, live, talking about Newcastle United. So look, there's a few questions in there. Some interesting questions. I don't know which ones you want to go through. If there's anyone you want to go through.
Do you know what I'm going to do, Pete? I'm gonna try and whittle it down to like a top 3. And the only reason I say that is obviously I'm conscious of time, but also through the chat, through the show, we've managed to kind of like cover a lot of these topics. To be fair, because when I was looking at them, I was thinking, oh yeah, we've covered that. What I think's an interesting one, which we didn't speak about, and again, you may have spoke about this on the reaction show, but I thought it was a really good point from John Spence, and he says, "Hi lads, what did you think of Dan Burn losing it yesterday? lucky not to give away a penalty or be sent off. So obviously John is referring to that melee in the box. I think it was between him and Laporte. And it felt like it went on for about 5 minutes. But you could see Dan Burn, I take John's point, it did seem like Dan Burn lost it a little bit because it looked like a man possessed at 1 minute because his eyes were wide open and he wasn't having it, was he? And obviously, he was making the point. But what did you think of that, Pete? Like, were you kind of saying, oh, come on, Dan, get your head back in the game now. You're losing your focus. Or were you thinking, no, I'm glad that he's, standing up for himself and saying that he's doing nothing wrong. But how did you see it?
I think it seemed frustration more than anything.
Yeah,
it seemed like he was frustrated at the situation. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Dan Burn and Jamal Lascelles don't suit each other as a back.
No, they don't.
In a back four pairing, they do not work. It's as simple as that. And they looked uncomfortable. They looked uneasy with each other. And that was just the reality. And that's why, kind of in my mind, I'm even more convinced that, that cannot be a pairing going into next season in any way, shape or form. Not even in a cup game, because they don't work together. It doesn't work. And, I think, I'm not sure if Alan made the point about Jamal Lascelles and said, he's not a ball playing centre back. He really struggles. He actually looks out of place, and
he looks uncomfortable. He looks uncomfortable.
I kind of feel sorry for him. I do, because being good on the ball as a centre back is something that you cannot teach.
No,
cannot teach that. You have to naturally be good on the ball. Char is naturally very good on the ball. Dan Burn's not even the best on the ball. He's not great on the ball, but he's comfortable. He's comfortable receiving the ball in difficult situations. He's comfortable in moving the ball on. He's not amazing. He doesn't play these big, long passes like Lejeune used to do from the left-hand side. He's not that type of player, but he's comfortable on the ball, so he gets away with it. Shaw is a better player because he likes to bring the ball out, and he's got a little bit more quality and control on the ball. And Lascelles isn't that at all. When he gets the ball at his feet, he almost looks like he's shaking.
I want to give it. Yeah, get rid of it.
Like, gets the ball, give it. Gets the ball, give it. And most of the time, he'll just pass it back to Burn. Burn will give it to him, and he'll just pass it back. If there's not a guaranteed option on, he'll just give it back to him because he doesn't want to know. That's not what Eddie Howe wants in his centre-back pairing. He wants both players comfortable on the ball. And the players that we've talked about as potential options, James Tarkowski, more comfortable on the ball. There's a number of others that are more comfortable on the ball as well that we've been linked with. And I think, it wouldn't surprise me. I've said before, I think he'll stay into the season, but it wouldn't surprise me if he gets moved on.
No, I agree.
Or maybe he asks to get moved on, because I think he knows in his mind that, one, we're getting more centre backs coming in, and two, he's not really going to play much football next season. And at 28 years old, he's probably going to want to play football.
Walk out with his head held high, because he's not going to play matches. And if he doesn't have the captaincy take off him, which maybe Eddie Howe's told him he's going to have the captaincy taken off him, it's better for him to leave. And then rather than have that difficult conversation or that difficult handover, it's just a case of, Jamal Lascelles has left, so the captaincy goes to someone else, rather than staying on the sidelines and being told, oh yeah, by the way, you're not having the captaincy either. It might just, he's done his job for the club. Time to move on. It might just be a case of that. This one's a bit of an open one from Derek Sharp, but I don't want to just restrict it, Pete, to youngsters. Derek Sharp says, apart from Anderson, is there anyone else you think could impact the squad next season? So rather than saying, like someone coming in from the youth, is there a particular player next season that you think is going to be the standout? As in someone who's going to have a major impact that maybe hasn't had the impact that they've had this season? I mean, I'm just thinking youngster-wise, I don't think there is anybody other than Elliot Anderson who's going to have an impact on the first team squad. I really don't. And that's not even to say that he will. I think he's got the best chance out of everybody. I know we've got Debal, who's been included in around the squad. We've got Joe White. We've got... who's the youth goalie? But again, I don't think he's going to make a step up in any significant way.
What our young goalkeeper, is it Dan Langley?
Langley, that's it, Dan Langley. But I can't see him making a big impact. But is there any player specifically maybe that you think, he could have a big impact next season? Obviously, excluding the likes of Bruno, who I'm sure will. But a shock one, if you like.
Yeah, not really a shock one, but I actually think Simon's put a good one in there in the chat. He's put Kel Watts, and Kel Watts. I don't think he'll. I don't think he'll have a future at Newcastle. I think he might even get sold on in the summer. In my opinion, I just don't think he'll get an opportunity at Newcastle because I just think Eddie Howe will see beyond him. However, it's not really a shock, but I actually think someone like Kieran Trippier will have a big influence in our season next year. Providing that he's fit, providing that he plays regularly, and he doesn't get an injury that puts him out for 3 months like he has, I think you'll really see the proper Kieran Trippier come into play next season and have a real big influence on this team. He's only played 3 or 4 games, started 3 or 4 games for Newcastle before he got injured. So we haven't seen the best of him yet. We saw him really influence games and have big moments in games, but actually, I think he's going to, from a leadership point of view, from a quality and technique point of view, I think we're going to really see the best of Kieran Trippier over the course of a season. That's just my opinion. So he's one of them. One player I would like to see have an influence in this team from what we've got currently is Joe Willock. I'd love to see him at 23 years old. I'd love to see him really kick on and really kind of take that position and make it his own. At 23 years old, that's what I want to be seeing from a 23-year-old centre midfielder right now, is taking that emphasis on and really kind of saying, you know what, we're bringing all these players in, but I want to be the guy that starts in this position. I want to see more goals. I want to see more shots on target. I want to see him be more dynamic in attacking positions. I want to see that from Joe Willock next season. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't think if we don't see it next season, I don't think he's got a future at Newcastle United, even at 23. I just don't see it. I think it's either now or never. Players like Joe Willock have got to step up, because otherwise we're just going to sign players to replace them. And
that's a big position. It's a big position. You can't carry players in the centre of the park. You can't.
Yeah, it's a key position. We have to have those players playing well on a regular basis and influencing games in that position, because we've gone too many years now with players in centre midfield that have not been influencing the game the way they should be, and that's not right. At Premier League level, certainly at a level where we're looking to be top half fighting for Europe, it's not just about your strikers scoring goals, it's not just about your wingers scoring goals, it's about your centre midfielders popping up and scoring goals for your club. Yeah. That's key. So, Joe Willock.
I'm going to throw a wild card in, Pete. Not to say he's going to start, not to say that he's going to be first choice, but I think, or I hope, we have a good season out of Jamal Lewis.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get a full pre-season, and I think he will challenge for the first team spot. And it wouldn't surprise me if Eddie Howe maybe has a good look at him over the summer, and maybe he starts as the first choice left back. I mean, you could argue, if we sign Matty Targett permanently, it could be him and Jamal Lewis, because he certainly ticks the pace box that we were talking about before. And if he's coached properly and, can keep away those injuries, there's no reason why he can't try and cement a place in the team, in my opinion. So he's an interesting one. He's one to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave the last comment, and it's not really a question, it's a comment, but I thought it was a great comment, and it's from our good friend Nathan Thomas. And Nathan said, and I know you started this, Pete, a few seasons back we were saying it's Sean Longstaff or Declan Rice as England's next centre midfield partnership. His time is past for me at the club. Look at the difference in their careers. And I think that's a really strong point, well made. Because if you look at the two careers, look at Declan Rice and what he's been doing for West Ham, he's took them to a Europa League semi-final. And then you look at Sean Longstaff and he gets the odd game here and there and he makes no impact.
Yeah. Exactly what we said before about Sean Longstaff. And I agree with what they've said. Equally, you look at, like you've just said, Longstaff and Rice, where they were kind of neck and neck, or very close to it at that point. Rice has gone up. Longstaff's gone down, but you throw another name in the hat as well. Calvin Phillips wasn't even in that conversation back then, and Calvin Phillips has gone from below Sean Longstaff to above him to kind of at the same level as Declan Rice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just goes to show how stagnated Sean Longstaff's career has gone, which is a real shame.
Yeah, agree, mate. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Really, really good night. Really, considering it was a disappointing result at the weekend, we've had a really good chat about lots and lots of different topics regarding Newcastle United, and like we always try and involve everyone in the chat, everyone that comes on live. We thank everyone that's come on live and been a part of it. You guys in the chat are absolutely legends. Every single one of you. So many with some great points that we could talk about all night, but unfortunately we can't. But we will be back. Whether we're back next week or not, I'm not sure. Because the game on Monday, and hopefully we get 3 points against Arsenal. But if not, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll be building up to the last game of the season against Burnley. So it'll be or will we? Oh no, will it be? No, it'll be after one.
No, we've got another game. Yeah, we've got another game.
It'll be the next time we. The next time we'll be on after that will be at the end of the season.
Wow.
Yeah, because it'll be the Sunday after, won't it?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. So it could well be the end of the season wrap up on the fans forum.
It will be. Yeah, Burnley away on the 22nd. Yeah.
But look, no doubt Steve will be back on this week, and he'll let you guys know about the fans forum. But regardless of that, we'll be here to talk whenever we're called upon about all things Newcastle United. As always, it is an absolute pleasure. Chris, always a pleasure, never ever a chore. Great point tonight as always, and great to share the chat with you and to talk all things Newcastle with you, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, mate, as always. And I can't wait for the summer, for the Loads of Transfer show. Can't wait.
Buzzing, absolutely buzzing. Lots and lots of shows and things that we've got planned that are going to be very, very interesting, that's for sure. And it's going to be a busy few months, I'll say. But let's all look forward to it. And look, I'll end with, let's not dwell on the defeat at Man City. Let's look ahead. Hopefully we'll get points against Arsenal. And then we can finish the season really high against Burnley. Chins up. Look forward to what's going to be a fantastic future for Newcastle United. There's no doubt about it. And enjoy the rest of your evening. You guys take care, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.